So what's the deal with MLK? Was it the CIA? When something fucked up happens, I always assume CIA.
Oh, brother, it was 1,010% the CIA. Like, not even a question. So much so that the King family also believes it was, and they spent the last 3 years of James Earl Ray, the alleged shooter. They spent the last 3 years of his life trying to get him out of jail because the family thought he was innocent.
Wow.
In 1999, in Shelby County, Tennessee, the King family sued the United States government, specifically through an agent. And the specific one that did the suing was Martin Luther King's wife. They sued the government for conspiracy to commit wrongful death and won. So in a civil court, they officially decided the government did kill MLK.
I never even knew that, man.
Yeah. That is wild. and that's not even news. Wow,
yeah, I had no idea. That's not common knowledge as far as I know.
People are like, but if you told someone, like, did you know that MLK was killed by the CIA? Like, I feel like a lot of people would
be like, oh, he's one of those guys.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they're like, put up the tinfoil hat or whatever.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it was like the King family who did the research and got it and all that, which is like, I don't think I have to tell you guys that some information is chosen to be fed while others is not.
Of course.
And stuff that has to do with like a distrust of the state tends to be on the don't show as much.
Who was the guy who went to prison for shooting MLK? Was that like Mark David?
James Earl Ray.
James Earl Ray. They always have three fucking names.
Or David Chapman was John Lennon.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. So the civil court thing decided that. Well, and in civil court, did they ever bring up that, there's a guy sitting in prison for this murder and blah, blah, blah?
Well, so he died in 1998 and the civil court was in 1999. So it was more so exonerating a dead man.
Was he retroactively exonerated?
So just in the nick of time.
By civil court, yes. In official court, no, because double jeopardy and all that stuff. He was already accused of it. But like, man, I tell you, like, I went into the MLK video like, oh, the FBI killed MLK. And then I did the research. It was like, oh my gosh, they destroyed that.
You're like, this is way too obvious. They didn't even try to cover it.
They didn't. Like, there was one witness who saw James Earl Ray there, and 74 who saw a different man there, and they went with the one guy.
Agent, Steven.
So that one guy who saw him was actually in a drunk stupor at the time, and then during an interview with ABC, the journalist held up a picture of James Earl Ray, and the guy goes, "Who's that?"
Oh my god!
and the reporter goes, "That's James Earl Ray," and he goes, "Oh, yeah, but that's not really the guy who I saw, but maybe from the back, it's
the only way to like bail yourself out of that is like, oh man, he's gained a lot of weight.
Clearly, the stress of being a murderer
is weighing on him. His hair fell out and everything.
I'm like that's my bias is like, if I hear something that's like, something fucked up the FBI or the CIA did, I'm like, you don't even have to explain it. I believe you.
Yeah.
I used to not be like that.
But if,
once upon a time,
if they came out and they were like, CIA stops hunger in Nigeria, like poor village, I'd be like, no.
What's that village got to hide, huh?
Maybe Nigeria's not even real. I've never been.
If I haven't seen it, it's not there. Australia looking at you, not looking at you.
Yeah, Finland isn't that the conspiracy that Finland isn't real?
Oh, I thought it was Australia.
Exist, yeah.
I thought it was Australia. Fuck.
Well,
too big.
It started with.
Come from?
You got me there.
Wait,
no, he's right. Trust me, I'm an expert. He knows what he's talking. Just listen to everything Kyle says about alligators and crocodiles. He knows.
The Finland thing. You've heard of that, Isaiah, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's part of something called the Blifeld conspiracy. Blifeld is a region. I want to say England, but it may be France, somewhere Central Europe, whatever. It's a small city that not a lot of people lived in, and it became a joke on like European television or whatever that Blifeld just isn't real. And their argument for it was, well, have you ever met anyone from Blifeld? That's what I thought, so it's not there. So people just kept rolling with that until eventually Finland doesn't exist.
It just
I mean,
spread.
there's only a few of them.
It got bigger. You're really right. I saw this whole like breakdown someone did of it, that the world like demographics charts and stuff are always right within a percentile. So like it could be off by 1% of the population or whatever. And Finland makes up I think 6% of the world's population, meaning that Finland could be a statistical error.
Probably
Effectively don't exist.
Yeah.
When
Exactly.
you account for error, they effectively do not exist.
those,
That's lame.
those are like I've always thought like those kind of countries are the best ones to live in, like the really nice countries that fly under the radar. Nobody hates on Norway, nobody hates on Finland. Like they're
Nah.
not important enough. Whereas the US, yeah, it's nice to live here, but everybody's always shitting all over us for all the horrible things we do to other countries needlessly.
America be like Godzillaing other countries with their dick. In other countries, they're just, what the hell are you talking about? What are you doing here? But you know, the Norwegians, they're over there like, what up? We're chilling.
Yeah.
We're just hanging out in Norway, just being Norwegian and shit, man. It's kind of cold, but
Yeah.
we're posted up, you know?
We're too busy
Yeah.
destabilizing South American nations to do
Yeah,
that.
shh. We're not.
Norway,
They don't
and,
need
they, and you get over to Norway and they don't have mustard or something weird, you know. There's no ketchup. It's like the little details that are completely gone. You're like chocolate chip cookie, and they're like, what?
The
No.
what now?
What
are you saying? To America.
do you mean a baked fish pie?
Or Canada.
Literally something like that, bro.
Get me out of here.
I like that
It's
all
like
of
a
the difference are
spice.
snack food related.
And meanwhile, like Harley, you would show up there and you're like, fuck, being average height is terrible. I'm going back to
Yeah.
Canada.
I
I
wouldn't be
think
like
that's what it
tall
is.
and fat there. I would just be fat.
Yeah, you use the tall advantage. Look at this. Look at that normal heighted fat man. Like, is what they would say.
That's the biggest Jew I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I thought they would.
I'm colored. I'm colored.
That's
there.
where I was going too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the rare Jew. Yeah. Get a picture with him, kids.
No, I would just be. I wouldn't even be. I wouldn't be even be like Jewish undercover there. I would just be fully like colored person.
Yeah.
Like I'm
By their
minority. Like,
standards?
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
So you
probably
come
not
to
a lot of
my-
Jewish people there.
Mile away over
What
there.
about the conspiracy about birds not being real? Is
Dude, I know dudes that believe.
that was my next question. Are there people who don't believe in birds, but you just confirmed to me that you actually know someone who doesn't believe in birds? So tell
Yeah.
me more about that.
So birds aren't birds. There's no such thing as birds. Animals don't fly. Have you ever seen any other animals that aren't birds fly?
The bat.
Exactly. Nothing but birds fly, right? So they're not real. They're actually government robots. And why would they chill on on power lines? Right? That's weird. Why would an animal chill on a power line? Exactly, because they're recharging. They're not actually, they're robots. They're government surveillance robots that sit on power lines to recharge.
Seems
For
like a
what
lot
it's
of
worth,
bullshit.
the people that I've heard say this, I know to be quite mentally ill. I've not met people that are like of sound mind and reason that firmly
Yeah.
believe this.
I think it's a similar group of people that believe in the gang stalking stuff. That they often have mental illnesses, or it's the people that see. I believe that the vast majority of flat earthers are trolls, in that
I agree.
like, they really enjoy being like, no. So there's an ice wall. Yeah. Oh, they don't let
Right.
you fly over that. They love the idea of like finding their dumb friends and getting them to actually believe in it. But the problem is that their smart friends hear it and they think it's funny too. They're in on the joke, and so they pick it up as well. I think that the vast majority of flat earthers are like snickering
Memeing.
behind their hand as they look at the person who's just like doing the research now. Like, dude, I looked into it last night, man. Is this for real? And they're just laughing their ass off. But
Found a
no,
4chan post.
I didn't know about the fake birds until maybe a year or two ago, and I've read the same shit about how they're charging on the power line.
Yeah.
I guess there's supposed to be surveillance.
Yeah,
But-
that's what it is. The government's
but-
watching.
God, they're wasting so much money making those fake David Attenborough documentaries. I just can't believe it. I watched
So
an
much
hour
bird
and a half
propaganda.
I watched an hour and a half on tropical birds last week. Like they produced all of that just to keep up with the lie. I don't know.
You fell for it, man. The turkeys we eat on Thanksgiving, they're robots.
See, if they just told me that like some birds aren't birds, I'd be like, fuck, that's all right. That might be a thing.
I
Like,
agree. That's more feasible.
That's
it's not
good. Oh,
feasible,
no.
but it's better.
if they were like, the U.S. government has a drone that looks like a bird. They've had it for over a decade. The drone technology that we saw, those parrot drones, that was 30 years old. They've got bird drones now. They squawk. They shit on people. They they flap.
They take French fries out of your
they lay
fucking
eggs.
hands.
They lay eggs. The eggs are also surveillance spots, and it's a self-propagating surveillance system.
They hatch surveillance pigeons.
Yes, all of that.
They reproduce for fuck's sake.
Like that might be a thing, but birds definitely exist. Like what I never understand is why the conspiracies have to be so like vast and all
Outlandish.
Yeah, like this conspiracy has to requires like every world government to be in on it, and for there to be some like Illuminati like shadow government. And I'm not completely opposed to the existence of any of that, but people working together for a common cause is a rare fucking thing, especially, and keeping a secret is even rarer. So like all of that seems unlikely to me,
especially for birds.
I've shot a bird and eaten it right after I shot it, so I definitely know birds are real. I think that anyone who doesn't believe birds has never eaten a bird before, or they were just really crazy. He's like, "Ah, they planted a real one. Look at that."
Isaiah, I wanted to ask you what are the conspiracies? I'm sure you've done so many. I'm sure there's multiple that you went into in your research, being like, "This is the silliest thing. It's going to be funny," and then as you're going, you're like, "No, it can't be real. This can't be a real." Like, were there any like that like by the end you're like, I bamboozled myself here?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the biggest one that I really entered with like the whole I'm going to make fun of this thing on the internet, and now I'm legitimately scared of it, is the concept of fractalization, specifically, which I think fractalization. So Kyle has more experience with this kind of thing than I do, but specifically with that look,
Kyle's face,
specifically with hallucinogenics and things like LSD and all of that, people will begin to see these patterns, and they will have.
I know about fractals.
They'll see these entities, fractals and stuff like that. The craziest thing to me is every single story I've ever heard from someone who has any experience with tripping or whatever, they always encounter the same creatures. They see the same shapes. They have the same experiences. And the wildest story to me, the one that like made me like shut the computer and be like, all right, I'll come back to this at a later day. There were these 4 guys out west who they all got DMT, and they were high for like 2 days. Like they hooked themselves up on an IV to stay hydrated.
Oh, no.
They went, they went in. All 4 of them came out and said that they had met each other, that they had talked to each other in this fractal plane or whatever. And then while telling the story to other people, were able to accurately relay who each other was, what they did. And they all had like a shared experience in this plane of existence or whatever. And I was like, no, that can't be real. And then I keep finding more and more, and it's driven me up a wall.
So that's interesting to me. Like I've only done like mushrooms and acid, but DMT seems really interesting, depending on how you do it. You know, there's the 2 kinds. I don't get super technical with it. Like everybody always wants to pull out a goddamn fake chemistry degree and like dimethyl ethyl kikatine. I'm like, I want to stop him right there and be like, explain to me how that molecule is constructed. Could you draw it for me? Like what kind of bonds are those?
Bro, but I got it tattooed on my leg, bro.
Like I remember just enough chemistry to know that you don't know chemistry. So just stop pretending. But anyway,
don't throw terms out there like ionic bond, covalent bond, potassium.
Potassium.
Boron.
Elements, science, test tubes, beakers, Bunsen burner much?
You guys are way too smart for me. They clearly know their shit.
You fucking.
I always keep a lit Bunsen burner going when I have company over, so they're like, "Wow, this guy."
They're like, "Hey,
oh, sorry, you caught me tinkering on.
You caught me in the middle of my study, and I'm melting. I'm melting like 50 Snickers minis into a bigger Snickers. Get out!
Actually nothing. There's nothing funny about that.
You throw a sheet over it.
There's actually nothing funny about melting many chocolate bars.
I was about to say, wait a minute.
I told you would never interrupt me doing my studies.
Get out of my studies.
Look, we have a guy here that has found great success with melting food into bigger food.
There's totally nothing. It's nothing to laugh half-fat melting little chocolate bars down into one big chocolate bar.
It's a genuine
It's like-
science.
it's like
There's
my-
absolutely a lot of
It's
cool
like-
things about that. I think that's very respectable.
I think it's
my
a
wife
great
telling me
profession.
that like no matter how hard I work, no one is going to buy my $10 million bar, which is 100 grams melted into it's a $10 million bar. It's in the shape of Reese's.
You're ahead of your time.
I wrote to Frito Lay.
is
They have not got
research.
back to me.
I
Bread
would
for
like
soap,
like
yes.
to try Dove
It's
at
good.
your
It's
house,
good. And
prepared by you.
well,
Killed
you
by
can. It takes 2 seconds to clean it because it's such a tiny little animal. You just grab you take your finger on both sides and just pop it like you're breaking its spine, and you just force the breast meat out. Then you just rip it. It is the easiest animal to clean ever, and you look kind of cool while you're doing it because you're just like Kali Ma,
Easy.
like
Yeah.
ripping.
Yeah. So, like-
I did
like-
that with turtles.
They're
And that
so
was fucked up.
fragile. They're so
my
fragile that if you tried to like tear a dog's leg off, it just wouldn't work. Like,
Yeah.
for one thing,
Right.
he'd bite you at some point. But like,
Yeah.
if you like reach into a dove's chest and just pull its entire breast meat out, it'll just come right out. Like you can do
Mhm.
that
You
with your bare
serious?
hands. You can,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the
They're
dove
so-
doesn't even
they're
care.
just
It's just
squishy?
like, ah.
Oh, it hates it. It hates it.
Well,
I
ideally,
bet,
it's
really.
dead.
And they never fly again. But
Wait,
it,
The dove hates it.
yeah, they
I
hate
mean,
it
yeah,
when you
bro.
do that.
And
Yeah,
it never
I would
flies
imagine
again.
so.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you ever
Yeah.
heard a dove scream?
But
You
then the
guys
breast
have.
meat grows back, and the next year you pluck it again.
Oh,
no.
I get it.
No, you shoot them, and then then you like pull the meat off. But what you have is you have this little like breast, like cutlet thing, like it looks like a chicken, but
Mm.
obviously incredibly tiny. And you put cream cheese in the middle and wrap it in bacon with a toothpick and grill those things. Are really really fucking good. Quail is good like
Sounds
that. too.
amazing.
You need a lot of them though. Like if you're gonna eat a meal of dove,
It's
Yeah.
like hot wings.
you need like 11, 12 doves.
It's just like hot wings. Yeah, you need 10 or 15 or something if you're
Mhm.
hungry. Especially like we would sit there and like eat a dozen of them and like drink beer, and they're just so fucking good.
I bet they're not. I bet they're pretty good for you, like macro wise. It's really lean.
It's really
Right.
lean. There's like no fat in there. It's one of those things that like you probably couldn't even survive on if that was your
Yeah,
Your
I was
main
reading
source of
something
meat.
about that. It's called like
Rabbit.
rabbit starvation, where you could have like if you're in the wild, like you're Les Stroud or whatever. Even if you had unlimited rabbit meat, you could still starve to death because there's not enough fat in there to sustain you, and your body can't survive on protein forever.
So I actually
Wow.
just did I say just did. It was like last month. I did a video on Chris McCandles. He tried to be
Oh,
a
yeah,
survivalist in
yeah.
Alaska. One of the
Fucking
lead theories is he
dumbass.
died of rabbit starvation. Yeah, that guy. One of the lead theories is he died of rabbit starvation. So
So
Well,
what
that's
else
so
did
annoying.
you?
You go hunting all these rabbits, cook all these rabbits, eat all these rabbits, and still die.
Yeah.
I would just be like,
Yes,
oh, just
yeah.
kill me. Let's just skip to death.
Well, I mean, I've heard
Running
people say
around.
that. I've heard people say that about a lot of food. I was unaware that there was a term for that, but like whenever I was eating ramen when I was in prison and shit, people would say like, that's technically not food, right? Like you couldn't eat just that and live. It just makes you not hungry. Like, is that what?
No,
Is that a
it's
similar
good you
thing?
had some guys looking out for your nutrition.
I don't.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, I used to
Yeah.
do drugs that'd kill me immediately. Shut up, get off my back.
I did.
But is that the same thing? I mean, like, there's just
I'm
certain
sure it
foods where
is. Like, you
hypothetically you
couldn't-
can't eat just that.
Like you
So-
couldn't. It would be hard to pick a food
Maybe
that
there's
you
fat in that,
could
though.
survive on. Like I bet
Yeah.
potatoes. For some reason, I bet you could live a long
So-
time eating nothing but
It's because
Yeah,
you watched The
probably.
Martian.
Oh, yep, you're right. It's because I watched The Martian.
But you can't. You need
Ah, that's where I
vitamins
got
and
it.
minerals, right? Like at some point you're gonna like run out of some vitamin and mineral, and like it's gonna become a problem. Like even if it
Yeah.
doesn't, like
Deficiency.
it's not like maybe we could live without like that, but like that leads to some disease or something. I just don't think you can
Scurvy,
live on
for
a diet
example.
of- Scurvy is a
So,
great example. You need that
you can
vitamin
Yeah,
C. to
survive-
die.
No vitamin C, you get scurvy. Simple as that.
Yeah.
You can survive a really long time on potatoes compared to other food sources. The main reason being it has a lot of like mineral supplements and it has all the amino acids needed for your body to put together its own
Yeah.
proteins. The issue
Mhm.
you run into, like Kyle said, is a vitamin deficiency, but that won't kill you until like a few years. The only real time that we have proof historically is like in Ireland, like right
Potato
before
famine?
the potato famine, where there were families who exclusively lived on potatoes for years. That's the only time people have really died from like exclusively eating
Wow.
potatoes. But,
Imagine
like-
that. Like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Oh no,
They-
you're good.
they went so long eating nothing but potatoes that they died. Like,
Yep.
like
What a terrible life.
That's
that
years.
might be the worst death I've ever heard of. Like I choose death by
Tater
potato
tot.
consumption.
Shannon, what's
but
for Shannon,
you
what's
know
for dinner?
That
What the
would,
fuck do you think's for dinner?
that would take me though. It would take me 4 years. Like I would literally be like I love potatoes. I like if we're like I mean, you boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. Many ways to consume these potatoes. I would be like literally like day 1,288. I'm kind of getting tired of potatoes now. Wouldn't mind
But then I
serving it
remembered
up.
breakfast potatoes, and I'm
There's
back
scientists. There's scientists studying you. Like, I don't fucking understand it either. Bobby's had nothing
He's
but
still
tater tots
breathing.
for 5 years now.
Literally.
You're in
I love potatoes.
He only.
Am I the only one that doesn't know Josh's prison story?
I didn't know it, but I
Yes.
read it like as soon
Okay,
as I
all
got
right,
in
all
here.
right. I'll,
He's
I'll,
been,
I'll do my own research. Gotcha.
Josh has
Yeah,
been
yeah.
on the show, and it has
Josh,
many
all right.
Josh is a
very
terrorist.
enthralling tales. Yeah.
Kyle, dog, Kyle. Every time I start thinking me and Kyle are friends, bro. Did you hear what he said?
I said you're a terrorist. I read the article.
Only.
I mean, he's right, but damn,
he's
bro.
only a terrorist if we want to get technical.
On paper,
You are
I'm a
more of a
terrorist. I'm not
terrorist?
really. I'm
There
not
were
actually.
There are guys in Guantanamo Bay who aren't as much of a terrorist as you were.
Probably so, though. To be honest,
Yeah,
there are probably
yeah.
dudes in there that did less than I did, and I didn't hardly do shit. But
We got a
you-
couple in
mm.
there that probably were just like selling dates on the street, but they looked like a
They
guy.
look- yep,
also
they fit the bill.
With a
They
beard.
were charged with being Arab in the wrong place
is
at
that-
the wrong time.
Is that Muhammad? Is that this guy? That's him. Move
Hey, are
in.
you Muhammad? Yes, we got him.
Wait,
Put him in
but
Guantanamo, it's
all
over with.
11 of us are named Muhammad. No, we got one. We got
We
one.
got him.
Sir, you're
Back
gonna
to
love it.
base.
We got the entire Black Angels. We got them all. We got them all, sir. Yes, Muhammad.
Black
They're all admitting it. They're lining up.
They all confessed. They all gave us a thumbs up.
But yeah, to answer your
Black
question,
Angels.
Isaiah, yes, Josh went to prison for RuneScape related threats, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I
You're kidding me.
talked really bad shit on a video game. Like what I said was
serious?
gnarly. Yeah, and I got raided by the FBI when I was 19. I'm 29 now. I was 19, and it was in 2012, and I ended up going to the feds for a good 5-piece the first time, and then I went back for a year for smoking some weed and violated my probation, and
Ugh.
went right
That's
back
the-
to the Hoos
That's
Cow.
like the funniest part of your story is you
Yeah,
go
it
away
is.
for 5 years, and then like 7 months later, you're like, nah, I'll just smoke weed. I barely remember what prison was like. Then you're back in for another.
Immediately, bro. I was actually on the streets. Like, okay, if you count ankle bracelet
Oh,
from the halfway house time, and rehab time, if you don't include that, I was out for like 40 days or something like that before my PO was like,
Yeah,
"Hey, I'm gonna need you to come to the federal building at specifically 9:00 in the morning," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going back."
That just it's so funny that you felt like that because I know from being a good friend of Kyle's and hearing about that whole process when Kyle was on probation, he was like, "What? Well, yeah, I guess I could technically have a couple beers, but I'm not touching that shit. I'm not touching alcohol. Are you gonna sneak some weed? No. What are you crazy? No, I'm gonna stay sober for 2 straight years. I'm never going back to jail." And so, like, seeing Kyle's resolute, like, not once wavering, and then you like 5 years, 10 times as much time, even more than that, is that he spent in there, and you're like, yeah, I want to get stoned.
I yeeted it, bro. And I have to
Dude.
say that I'm not trying to make excuses or anything, man, but that's probably a part of it because I came out fucking confused, dude. People were speaking differently, and it was way different than I thought. You can't get it through a TV or a magazine. You can't get cultural changes like that.
Yeah.
And I just came out
Cultural changes. I'm sorry,
confused, dude. And I just went
Mhm.
back to doing what I did best, man. I'm not proud of it. It's not a smart thing to do, you know,
Yep.
but I was
Mhm.
like, I got back to drinking and smoking.
Wendigoon. Your
Yes.
channel is fascinating for those who don't know. Wendigoon does all
Very
sorts
good
of
content.
conspiracy theories and creep shit. He does icebergs about creepy stuff and some more mundane stuff as well. Very interesting stuff. I recently is a month and a half ago, watched one of your videos, and it was about a mystery that I had heard of before, but the time I'd heard of it before was probably from like one of those like Fox specials where
Yeah.
they leave it up in the air. Was it aliens or the devil?
It's one of the two.
50-50.
It's definitely one of them.
Yeah.
But it was and I think it might be one that I have mocked on here before because of one of the facts in the case. So this is you'll know them right away. I know the pieces. This is the one where that lady survivalist led her group of student survivalists, and only one ended up surviving their retreat. And that person that was a young lady, and she reported the rest of the group like falling ill, going into seizures, clawing at their skin, their faces and stuff, and dying subsequently. And she couldn't understand or make what was happening, and so she just fled. And like 2 or 3 more days later, they found her, but then they didn't go back for the bodies for like a couple weeks or something like that. By then, the evidence was so, and no one's ever really figured out. But it's could you help me out with like what
Absolutely.
actually?
Yeah. So that's the Kamar Daban Pass. That's the region where it happened. It happened in I think it was the 80s, if I remember correctly, 80s, 90s, on the border of Russia and Kazakhstan in a region known as like the Kamar Daban mountain region. I gave most of the details in the video, but the short run through is that this lady was known for taking these groups of hikers on these like week-long hiking trips up into the mountains around Kazakhstan, which are pretty considerable mountains. You've got to be like a decent survivalist to begin with to get up there. And this specific group that she went with was a group of her students, so to speak, who she'd been doing it with for a couple of years. So they were like very experienced. And this pass that they were going on wasn't particularly hard by any means. It was comparatively easy. They had taken all the food that they needed for the amount of time given. There was other groups who were hiking the mountain at the same time that they had planned to have rally points where they would meet up and then continue. And then one day, I believe it was about 5 days into the trip, the other group she was supposed to meet with did not see her at one of these rally points, or her group. And it had rained the day before. So yes, there's a good idea for what the region's like. It had rained the day before, so they just figured, oh, well, they probably just got slowed down because of the rain. And like, we'll see them whenever we get there. But sure enough, they get to the bottom of the mountain and that group isn't there. So eventually they launch an investigation. People start looking. And then about 3 days later, one of the students who was in that group shows up at a local city. And she goes to the police and tells them a whole story. The exact details of what she said isn't known. And then 2 weeks after that, and that's like one of the real suspicious details of the case, they didn't launch an investigation for 2 weeks. Weather was pretty clear at the time. 2 weeks later, they go look for them up on top of the mountain. And then there is video footage of the entire search for them and their eventual finding of the body. And then I believe it was 6 people. The survivor made 7. 6 people, all within a couple hundred feet of each other, are just lying dead in a clearing on top of the mountain. They're like, a couple of them are lying next to each other. One of them's like more towards the woods as if they're running away. 2 more together at the front of the woods. And it starts to paint a really weird picture. The initial idea at the time was that the survivor had murdered the others, because logically, if 6 people die, only 1 comes back, that would be the solution. However, there was no evidence on the bodies that there was any kind of fight or any kind of strangulation marks or whatever. But then even more suspiciously, after doing a full autopsy, there was no evidence of anything that happened to these bodies. They just kind of dropped over. There wasn't signs that you would see in hypothermia, like late stage, what is it? Like the lung fluid starts to contract or recede or whatever. And the skin of the bodies were too decomposed at this point to see if they were frozen up or anything. So it remained a total mystery of what had happened for about 20 years. Eventually, a reporter, actually it's like more like 30 years, it's like 28. A reporter eventually tracked down the one survivor and asked for testimony, because what had happened is she gave the police a testimony and then never mentioned it to anyone else. So she finally sat down with the reporter after 30 years and gave her side of the story and said that what had happened is they were just walking down the mountain. Everything was normal. It had rained the day before, although they were okay. They had ate breakfast. And then one of them starts screaming and coughing up blood. And then it was the teacher, runs over to help him out. She kneels down next to him and immediately starts coughing up blood too. She looks up at the group and blood is running out of her eyes, and she's telling them to get away. So, of course, the 5 remaining begin to freak out and run. And as they're running, one of the guys drop. Exact same thing happens to him. One of the girls, I think it was maybe his girlfriend or something, comes back to help. Same thing
weeks
happens to her.
later. Carry on.
Yeah, it's like such a weird, bizarre story.
Yeah.
Eventually, the rest of them run, and the only one who keeps running and does not succumb to whatever's happening is the one girl who ended up being a survivor. She had enough temporary shelter on her back. She was able to set up camp for the night, although all of the food was with the people who had died. So the next day, she did the math and was like, I can't walk for 4 days without food or water. I'm going to have to go back to the bodies. So the next morning, she gets up, she goes back to the bodies, and they're all still laying there. They're in the exact same position that they had dropped down at. So she took her food and managed to make the hike. The 4 days, went to the police station. And the reason she said that she had never told that story is because she assumed no one would believe her and would think that she's covering up for some reason. Because, you know, if one girl survives a hiking trip and then is like, oh no, they all started bleeding from the face, that's going to cause some suspicion, which is the reason she told
when
them.
they found the bodies, and you were saying they didn't see anything about them like having, you know, died in a curious condition. What about all the vomiting and the blood and the
so it had been 2 weeks outside, so like the top layer of skin was just like darkened, sunken in across the face. All the blood at that point had either, whenever someone dies outside in the woods, there's a lot of bloating and like pustules and other gross stuff.
Not to mention the crows had picked these people's eyeballs out, and like the foxes ate their lips off. Like God knows what was left of them.
Yeah, it probably looks pretty bad.
You can't see like the full body on the video, but he comes up to someone who's laying face down, and you can see his hands, and they're just like black and emaciated. So they're in a pretty rough condition. They weren't able to tell anything like if they're
like one of those Everest bodies you see.
Yeah.
Where it's like they look like a really old piece of dog shit.
So I think one of your explanations, and probably the one that you think is the best, is what I agree with, and it makes a lot of sense to me. But before we I feel like it's almost a spoiler. Let's see what Woody and Taylor, do you guys have any theories about like what could have gone wrong here?
So she didn't murder them.
You know where this happened, the time of
one
year,
of the theories.
And you know the roughly the
I like this game, Kyle. This is good. This is
the murder thing. The murder thing doesn't make sense because you said it was a woman who survived, and it was a group of people who would have like fought back if someone was just like sort of willy-nilly murdering.
Yeah, the survivor was like.
What about poison?
Girl.
Like, could you poison? Are there any berries that cause symptoms what they experienced, or any food like that in the region?
So, go ahead.
Well, they're all survivalists, right? Like they know the poison.
I think it'd be bad ones.
From the good.
I painted something today. It's terrible.
But these are.
Taylor, I don't like the way you're doing this. You need to lay out your
let me lay
theory,
this out.
not
So
ask questions.
Wendigoon gave you like the fast forward version, but these are the best. This lady, like I think I've made fun of her before in the past. Like some lady led a bunch of kids up into the wilderness, and then they all ran out of their tents naked at night and froze to death. Like I think that's what I had heard. But no, like she was a legit like fucking Sarah Connors style survivalist lady who knew her shit and knew how many calories each person would need to be eating each day down to 100 calories, and like she was an expert.
Here's my theory.
Okay.
She looked at her food supplies, determined that there wasn't enough for everyone to live, found some way to kill the people around her so that she could, and made it out.
Okay. So murder is
the way I'm going on this.
Okay.
All right.
Did she report that they were like short on food during their expedition? I guess if you murdered someone for food, you wouldn't.
They could have made it out. They could have made it out without food as long as they had water, right? Because like they're survivalists.
4 days. Yeah.
To continue giving the facts, whenever they found the bodies, most of them had their food supplies still on them that hadn't been ate through.
Okay.
Indicating that they didn't starve. So.
Oh, I'm gonna change my answer. There was a romance thing. She didn't like. There was some sort of interpersonal thing
The
going on.
7-way, and she wanted to be she wanted a good old fashioned traditional 4-way.
Wait, God intended.
Like this guy,
Poor
like
men,
that
just being
guy,
men.
this guy like a girl, but she wanted to be liked instead. So she murdered like 3 or 4 of them, so they wouldn't know she was targeting that girl in particular.
Or
But
maybe
it all happened
like,
so quickly, apparently, because they're all in that little area.
well, if I thought it was that, I would probably imagine a scenario where she killed one girl, but then she got caught, and like maybe they were like, you killed Amber, we're telling on you when we get back, and then she poisons everybody that night. Like
Just
you could
became a brawl. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, you're saying she killed them after one murder. I see what you're saying.
yeah, because what are they gonna do? Arrest her? They're 4 days out. They're like, I can't believe that's what would happen. They'd be like, I can't believe you killed Amber. And maybe they got into a fight.
You don't
know,
tie them up or something. If someone murders someone on a camping trip, you don't go, "Hey, strike one, Buster." That's fucking absurd. No, you would tie them up and leave them, if anything. Like,
if it was a cute girl and there were other girls there to be like, Mark, you're not gonna tie up Becky, are you? Her hands are turning blue. She said she can't breathe. What do you mean she can't breathe? Her hands are tied. She can't breathe.
I don't imagine.
You
that.
cut those ropes just to avoid the screaming.
This is funny because
No, that's how
Kyle
it happened.
knows-
And then one guy got so tired of it, he tied them all up. And then he
he just left them.
Just a random
It's so
woodsman was
weird,
like,
all
"You're-"
6 of them were tied up in one circle. Crazy how bears do that randomly.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying. There must be an answer to this that you guys
There is.
know. I don't want you. I keep going back to poison. I don't understand what
okay
can
to
make
be wrong,
everyone
Taylor.
do the
Just move
same
the show
thing.
along.
Yeah, according to my theory, the one that like I subscribe to, you're not far off with the poison.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
What do they
Right.
suspect?
Spill
Uh,
the beans, Wendigoon.
Yes,
Tell
I'll
us.
spill the beans. All right. So this is kind of like a bit of a cheat because you didn't know this information going in. However, this region of the Kamar-Daban region, which is again on the border of
It's full of ghosts.
Very haunted.
Notoriously full of
ghosts.
ghosts.
The ghost.
It's the
poison.
home of the
That's-
Ghoul King.
Oh yeah, it's a bad area where we got bad with ghosts. Lousy with ghosts. Yeah.
Right. Right with the
Right with ghosts.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's ghost season up there. You jest, but this is how most of the theories I read about. This is where they come from.
They're fun. I like it.
They are. Anyway, so that region that's on the Russian border was used during the Cold War as a weapons testing facility. That is an openly documented fact that they would use the mountains to test mortar fire or artillery barrages, and most importantly for this story, gas attacks. There are specific strains of nerve gas that were tested in the region at that time that can last in the air for, I think some of them are up to like a year and a half. Like once they're
Jesus
detonated,
Christ.
they just have to disperse and then hopefully no one breathes it in. And a lot of them were detonated like in these completely obscure like canyons and mountains for that reason. Most importantly to this story, most of them are pliable to water. So if you were to physically flush a region or wash it, it would cause the gas to not be destroyed, but to move somewhere else. So the theory that a lot of people subscribe to, and the one that makes the most sense to me, is that they're hiking down the mountainside, and then it had rained the day before, which again matters for this story. So it rains, and this rain causes a washout of a mountain, a canyon, a valley, or something, and causes the gas to move along the mountainside. This group of hikers are then walking, and it's also important for this story. This was like in the final years of the Cold War, whenever stuff like nerve gas was being developed a lot. So it makes sense that if they did test it, it would still exist around there.
Okay.
So they're walking down the mountainside, and then all it takes, I forget what the name of the one I showed in the video was that was tested in that region, but it is so effective that like half of one of Kyle's vape hits would kill you instantly. It just takes a very minute amount. So as it's flooding through the region, one of them just breathes in a little bit, and that would immediately cause the lining of their lungs to begin to fall apart. It would cause the bleeding of the eyes and other soft tissues. Another detail I didn't mention, according to the Kyle's dying.
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, see, like that, the nerve gas. There it goes. What? What I saw that scratch in your eyes. What I didn't mention is one of the girls who was affected, according to the survivor, she started bashing her head onto a rock and like scratching at her throat, indicating that it was painful or she could feel something in there. So that would explain what Kyle's about.
What about the rock? Because
what
of
do you
the
mean?
pain?
Oh, well, she would have been feeling like the inside of her eyes and like nasal cavity bleeding and flaring out. And according to this girl, she just started hitting her head against a rock as she was dying.
That is so fucked up.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. That would also explain why one of them got affected, and then the person who came to stand in the same spot they were also got infected. There's also the very important mention from the survivor that it was foggy on the mountain that day, which could have not entirely been fog. So yeah, the theory that a lot of people go with, and I'm not the only harebrained one, this is kind of like the consensus online, so to speak.
No, I'm in, man.
That they were victims of old Soviet weapon testing. So
Yeah, that makes when you said that in your video, I was like, yes, that checks too many boxes with it's in the right region, the right time frame, and the right effects. And I don't know anything. I'm sure there's some poisons that would cause that, but none that should be there other than the ones that were being tested there in the region. Now, whether it was a cloud of it that like moved in a special, unique way, that I'm not so sure. I could easily see one of them found the shell and had it in his bag. And then maybe the cops found it and were like, oh, call the military. And the military was like, you never saw this. Like something like that could have happened. But
that's
because
also
the cloud seems like funky to me.
That's also part of the reason. So her original police statement was never published. She said later that's the story she told the police, and they kept it confidential for some reason. And that's also why people think the police didn't investigate for 2 weeks. Because the police are like, oh, well, that's the old weapons testing. We want to make sure that stuff clears out of the area before we go up there and go looking.
Because the military is like, hey, police, give us 2 weeks. And then trust me, you can walk on as much grass and turn over as many leaves as you like.
During the Cold War, anything like that would have been suppressed. The United States was suppressing tons of stuff, and the Soviets were even worse. You needed to hide every failure because it made you, it was life or death. If it looked like they might win that launch sequence battle, then they might actually do it. That's why you had to stay a step ahead, or at least so we were told. I'm watching a TV show right now called Project Blue Book. I think it was on History or A&E, and it's got the guy who played Littlefinger in Game of Thrones in it, and it's kind of like a throwback X-Files. So it's got an Army captain or an Air Force captain, and then Littlefinger, who's like a scientist, and they're being sent by the government to debunk alien sightings. It's pretty
interesting. So it's like based off of like older official reports or what have you?
Yeah, it's all based off of some actual stuff that happened. It's totally been like changed to be entertaining as a show because like they're like I don't know, I'm maybe 4 episodes in and they found an alien in a tank.
Whoa, okay.
And Werner von Braun comes out and he's like, oh, you found my rhesus monkey. You wouldn't believe the thing space would do to a rhesus monkey. And it was like, trust me, it was a fucking alien in the tank. Okay, there's no doubt. It wasn't even a foggy tank. It was and they're like, that was not a fucking monkey. Are you out of your goddamn mind? So it's kind of funny at times, but it's also got that sort of Cold War Russian spy sort of, and then all that, the government's like either wanting to suppress or hide or cover up or do it and killing U.S. citizens if they need to like keep their secrets. It's fun.
Have you been asked if jet fuel can melt steel beams, Wendigoon? What your take on this?
Oh boy, go to the comments of any of my conspiracy series. Yeah, pretty much.
I was told to ask you.
Interesting. Okay. That's a complicated question. No, I'm kidding. Yes, it can. Anything can destroy anything of a given temperature if given enough pressure and specifically tension. Like, if you hold up a jet fuel lighter to like a perfectly fine steel beam, it won't. But when you put the weight of the top of a skyscraper and it's about to break, and then you apply heat. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think
just
what's
weakens it.
often it's
Yeah,
often discounted that like when you have a skyscraper like that with windows blown out on either side full of jet fuel, you've sort of created a bit of a furnace.
mhm.
Like you can create a furnace in your backyard where you get the wind moving correctly over the flames, and you can melt steel in your backyard with wood and some bricks.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you
Can
know,
you? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
that's what
well,
our
like-
ancestors did.
Yeah.
the wood will burn hotter in a furnace than it would otherwise.
Because it's set up for the airflow to create this like siphoning effect. I don't know what it's called with
Chimney, I think.
gases. Yeah, like a chimney effect. So it's and if you've got some form of bellows to like add air, and the way to do that now is to take a hair dryer and run aluminum foil like at the end of it, so you don't melt the end of your hair dryer. But if you stick that in, you can make a crazy bellows that, you know, the ancients would have been pumping something, some poor slave man. But yeah, you can melt steel real quick in your backyard with wood.
They'd be so proud of you.
Oh,
Your ancients would be so proud of you wiring a
like-
funnel to a hair dryer.
And what is steel?
But yes, yeah, it can't, like, correct, it does not melt steel beams if you normally hold it up, but in the conditions given, yeah, absolutely. Just like the rest of the building.
It melts it, and then it makes it fall at free fall speed.
Yeah,
We all know that. I like knowing one or two things about every conspiracy and being and that's bad, like, and like, yeah, that's true. And then someone's like, but what about this? And you're like, well, I didn't know that. Like, obviously, I didn't
I was having
Google
fun.
it. Yeah.
Now you made it not fun.
Yeah, I know there. Oh, yeah, I know I can Google skinwalkers and see that some scientist did a study that they're not real, but that's not fun.
Nobody's proven that the skinwalkers aren't real because they can't be
Proving a
disproven.
negative.
That,
Yeah,
you know
the
what, I like that.
skinwalker
Yeah.
says so.
It's an unfalsifiable hypothesis. Yeah, Dr. Walker. Yeah, what are you, what are you doing, Dr.
I'm on to you.
Skinwalker?
It's always funny to like one up people who legitimately believe in conspiracy theories. Like, you know, if someone's like, "Oh, you really think jet fuel can melt steel beams?" You're just like, "You think New York is real?" Like,
Yeah.
you think there's people who
You
live
think
there?
any of that happened?
Oh, you go into your fridge, you grab a cold meal, you open your magic microwave, put it in there for 20 seconds, and it comes out hot, and you buy this? Come on.
Come on, I know the elves in your microwave. Switch it out
That's what
when
I
you're
went
not
to as well.
looking. Now, why do you think you
Yeah.
have to put the cover back over it? Duh.
Yeah.
So you don't see them working.
I don't understand.
We
how
were just talking
microwaves
last week about how like we don't know, like we personally don't know how like most of our technology works.
No, any of it, man. Let's be real.
Like 99% of it. If I couldn't duplicate it with like a hammer and nails or pipe and glue, like I don't get it. Like I can explain to you how a generator works, but I don't know.
How to build it, yeah.
No. I don't know how that electricity comes out. I don't quite understand that part. And that's like the most simple of things. And
Like, I get the general idea that you rotate a magnet or something inside an electrical field and that makes
Some
electricity, but there's
copper.
something in there missing. You
Yeah.
know, like, where do I put the wires on the out and how do I get the light bulb?
Yeah.
Like, we're stripping some electrons away from the air. I don't
That
like
sounds right.
where are we compiling all these electrons? And what is like if all these atoms are losing electrons, what's happening to them now? What are they being turned into now? What kind of atoms are they now?
fucking Go away.
They just
They
turn into stars.
become energy, right?
Oh, well, okay. That's a lot simpler than we thought. Then we just solved that one.
I was asking. I don't know.
No. I'm taking that as that was a statement you made, not a question.
Yeah, that's
All
all.
right. Well, we just figured out how electricity works. How long did it take those ancients to do that?
Idiots.
I don't know.
Idiot.
I don't
I
know
mean, they
how they
didn't
got
know
all
how
those big
generator
rocks.
worked.
But yeah, they didn't know how generators work. They seem to do some pretty cool things with levers to make the pyramids.
Oh, what? You got some cool triangles? Whatever. We
It's
have
like,
little elves in
what's
our
the secret
microwave
behind
closet,
this?
so.
Levers?
You know, every
No,
time
it's slaves.
every time I see one of those scientists being like, "We don't know what's at the bottom of it or inside of it," I'm like, "Tear the motherfucker down! Why don't they tear that fucking thing down and see what's in there?"
Yeah.
I
Or
wanna
make
know.
something up until you know the answer. Satiate me.
I want them to tear it down. I wish they would tear those pyramids down. I'm sure they're
I don't
fucking.
think, I don't think,
aren't they?
I don't think that's a popular position.
The Egyptians.
I
look,
like
look,
them.
You can't have it
They've been
either.
resting on their laurels for too long. They need to make something new, like a roller coaster.
I give them 2 thumbs up. I like.
Or
if
integrate
there's
the
a
roller
roller coaster
coaster
in
into
there?
the pyramid.
What if
Yeah.
what if there's one in there and they've been hiding it? Thank you. That's half my channel. I appreciate it.
You could do your hair like him, and you wouldn't be like.
You know what's funny
I
about
wouldn't be
your
that far off.
suggestion, Kyle, is like I was like, no, keep the pyramids. The roller coaster idea has me titillated. I like that. You go up one side, you go down the other, and then it wouldn't be a roller coaster per pyramid. It'd be one continuous metal
Goes
coaster that
through
you're
all
going
of
through all.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
You get
And-
to
and-
see
I mean,
fucking King
They
Tut or
named
whoever.
and the rides named themselves. It's like
Yes,
King Tut's tomb.
King
Did
Tut's
they,
tomb.
did they ever end up exhuming King Tut after everyone died? Or did they
Yes,
just leave
yes.
it as an exhibit?
I
can't
bet they
remember.
got in there, saw what was up. Like they were curious.
Probably. Well, like they broke it open. They're like, huh, this thing says that anyone who opens this door will die, and then all 7 of them died.
Really?
yeah, they all died. Everyone who opened up King Tut's tomb. Like
Wait,
within
was
a
they
month or
died
two.
45 years later
they
of type
went
2
home and had
diabetes?
heart attacks. Yeah, they just like
Uh-oh.
randomly fell over.
Well, maybe the Soviets were testing weapons at the pyramids.
King Tut's got a
ultimate
bunch of nerd
conspiracy.
cats in there.
Have you ever seen? Well, they did. Is that? I think that thing with Mercury wasn't. I think that was in China with those. What's the?
What do you mean?
Where they've got the
Thing with
soldiers
Mercury.
buried, the terracotta army thing.
Yeah.
Weren't there? Were there like pools of mercury there or something like that?
Yeah, there was a
Pools?
bunch of weird elements. I think I've heard the pools of mercury before
Mhm.
being there. I know there was a ton of what's that super stuff that comes off meteors? It's like a cobalt metal that's only found like through meteors in that region.
Shock quartz.
Yeah, there's like all these weird metals like gathered up among them and stuff. The pools of mercury thing sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you when you say pools of mercury? What do you, I don't understand. So like
As an ancient
terracotta
booby
warriors?
trap.
So
how do you are there amounts of mercury that they had access to back in those days to make like pools of it?
If you're, I don't know, if you they built a terracotta army for shits and giggles, they could probably get together a few hundred gallons of mercury.
Yeah, but they had clay to build the terracotta army and shit. Like,
They-
where does okay? If this is dumb, I'm joking. Where does mercury come from?
If
What do you do?
I'm
It's an
joking.
element.
This is so much.
It's in the ground.
Without notice.
If you dig enough, you'll find it. It's down
Is
there
that real?
somewhere.
You just keep
Yeah,
mining
yeah,
for
it's-
mercury?
You
a
just keep
mineral.
digging.
It's a metal, yeah, that
Okay.
is naturally in its liquid state at normal temperatures to us. Its freezing state is much higher. Technically, most things have a melting point of some kind. It just so happens to be a metal that's
yeah.
liquid. That's melting point is above like our normal temperatures, which is why it's a liquid.
It's I just for some reason I thought mercury was like difficult to come by as far as elements.
Oh, it's really fun to play with. You can order it off of Amazon, and you just pour it in your hands and play with it and stuff. Put it in your mouth. You put it in your mouth, and like it stays liquid. What?
oh yeah.
It's funny. No, it's really
I brush my teeth with it.
like, it'll stick to your teeth and turn solid because your teeth are a little cooler if you like. And the
I mean, you can go into
we
U-Haul
rented-
and get a 28-foot truck with your license. That's a form of domestic terrorism.
You're right.
Domestic
Quite literally,
terrorism.
it can be.
they're often used that way, unfortunately.
I was meaning just the average person though.
I
Like,
think
and-
Ryder
and
would
it's
have
so
something to
cheap.
say about
They
that.
they give that shit to you for $20 and $1 a mile, roughly. It's something like that.
dude, it
Um,
feels like you're being had at the U-Haul place because you're like, I'll have a 30-foot truck, and they're like, that'll be $19 and a promise. And you're like, what? Really? It's like, do you want my license? You know, just a cursory look.
Do you have one?
Oh, that guy
Yeah.
on your license is white, and you're white. Like,
Hey, look at all the progress Timothy McVeigh made with half a day's paycheck. All it took.
look
Oh,
what you can
God.
do with a
40
little
bucks.
determination.
Yeah, look, $40 there. Don't need to come back, but there, $40. That's all it took. So
Yeah.
Oh,
He didn't
that
buy
was-
the insurance because he did buy the insurance. He goes back to the Excuse me. The U-Haul I rented exploded and killed dozens of people. I would like my money back.
That's how they caught him
That's how they
insurance
got him.
fraud.
That's how they got him. They had to Al Capone him.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I hadn't even gotten to load up my 1-bedroom yet. Frankly, I was stopping.
He shows back up the next day. He's like, "What are you guys putting in those trucks?"
I just parked in front of this daycare facility. The
Oh,
darndest thing
God.
happened.
There must be something in the air in your government buildings that sets
Those poor
off this
children.
truck.
Those poor children.
Soviet.
Oh,
That was real
environment.
sad because they had pictures of all the children and they played them one after the other. And it took a long. They got through a whole Celine Dion song and there were still kids to show. That was sad times. I think I was about this. I think I was about the right age to have been in one of those daycare facilities. When did that happen? Like 93, 94?
2001.
No.
No, it was,
Oklahoma City.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
was-
The
it was
95 Oklahoma
90
City bombing. He
95.
died in 2001.
95, yeah.
95.
it was a
Gotcha.
response to Waco. So
Yeah, it
Waco
was.
in 93 or 94, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was right after 95, yeah.
Yeah. What a fucking mess all that shit was.
Yeah.
I was too young. I was only 4. So
Yeah, but
I
I've seen the
wasn't really in
videos.
tune.
I was talking to my dad about Waco the other day. I don't think that those people were doing anything wrong in there. The government story, we believed it back then because everybody believed it when the government said somebody was a pedophile. But like, they were like, yeah, there's this compound full of pedophiles that don't want to pay their taxes, and we're gonna go get them. And
Yep.
it's like, wait, what? Well, they've got.
Yeah. That was
got
a weird,
a
like
whole
when I
compound
never
of 'em?
really cared
It
that
was
much,
a
but I looked
cult,
into it and it
right?
looked ridiculous.
So
They called it a cult.
It was a
but I
religion.
don't know.
it was the Branch Davidians or the church.
Oh
they-
yeah, that's a cult.
Yeah,
Oh, come
Well-
on.
kind of.
What was the name of your church, Taylor?
The Branch Davidians. That's how I know I'm an inside man.
They did have an inside man that ratted him out, who actually went back later and said he regretted doing it in the court case that followed. I've considered doing a Waco video for a long time now. I have to get my language right because it's real easy for me to get fired up about stuff like that. So I've just
Yeah.
got to like tame myself as I go into it.
Yeah.
Easy for you to fly too close to the sun.
Instead of
Very
Yeah,
easy.
Yeah.
Do,
Way
Might
too
get-
close to the
Might get a little too real during
Do,
one of those.
and if you want one that's more cut and dry, though, you could just do Ruby Ridge. That's
yeah.
that's
Oh boy, will I?
Are you working
Yeah.
on a Ruby Ridge video?
I'm not gonna do a Waco video without bringing up Ruby Ridge, because it was the same negotiation team at both. So great job, guys.
I didn't even know that.
yep,
They got
it's-
to keep their job.
Yeah, they got promoted. As a matter of fact, the guy who was the not the lead negotiator, the lead of the fire team at Waco, was given a promotion to captain, I believe, after the events of Waco.
Oh, that
Because
seems
he was
above board.
viewed
Yeah.
he was viewed in the media as taking down a dangerous group of radicals, even though everyone who was on the ground said that he had actually killed, what was it, 82 children,
Yeah.
something along those lines. And he got a star pinned on his chest, and everyone said that they didn't know that years since and regretted it. However, there are pictures of them posing with their rifles next to the bodies of children, so don't think they exactly cared that much. Yeah, like I said, see, it's easy for me to do that. And get into it a
that's-
little
Children
bit.
could have been
fucked
enemy
up.
combatants.
They could have,
They had little guns.
Little guns and little grenades.
Look at
Mini
look at
guns.
this skeleton. He's clearly armed. Zap.
Nerfs of
No.
mass destruction.
One of the wildest things from that footage from the Waco thing is there's an FBI agent, maybe two, on like a landing. They've gone up one floor up a ladder and they're on this landing, and now there's like a wall with that's the second floor with windows, and they've got guns, and I think he's got an MP5, I think I remember in his hand, and all of a sudden machine gun fire comes from inside through the wall, and you can see the bullet holes coming out. And in the movies they'll like cut a circle in a door, but like you can't really do that most of the time. And I know I did it, but like you can't normally do that.
But you weren't about to commit an atrocity. Yeah.
But this guy from the inside is like, "Brrrr," and you see the bullets pop, 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 and the FBI guy is like down and rolling, and he does not care that he's a floor up. And you can imagine if you're getting shot at and you're 12 feet off the ground, you're like, the ground is not. I would love to eat some ground right now. So
Yeah.
he's just right off the roof of that building. But I'd never. That's some shit that I'd only ever seen in movies. You know, that it's a trope where the bullet holes come through the wall in sequence in this perfect line. But they did it. It was wild. It had to be an AK or something like that in there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know a guy who runs a merch store, and one of the pictures he has on the merch store is the ATF agent falling off the roof holding his chest, and it says "Have a nice day" across it. But yeah, that's
I get $5 every one.
Wow. That's so insensitive to members of the ATF.
Yeah,
who we all love.
Established people. Oh, speaking of Ruby Ridge, the only person, the only ATF agent who was convicted or any investigation who was done during that time was the sniper who took the shot that killed Vicky Weaver. He was being charged by the state of Idaho, and the feds said, "This is our case, we'll deal with it." So they picked it up, and then as soon as Idaho dropped their case, the feds dropped their case, and he was never charged or given anything. So funny how that works. Yeah,
it's pretty gross.
Yeah,
pretty gross, pretty sad. That
yeah, do a video about it. I'll watch it. I'll say this: when I often don't finish your videos, and that's a compliment because I start your videos at like 2-3 a.m. and I often get like the shivers. Like, I get creeped.
Cool.
I get creeped out. I get that. I get like spooked, like because sometimes you will pose these like scenarios or put forward these scenarios or pose these questions that don't have normal answers. You're like, wait, what? What do you mean they never saw him again? They found his wallet in San Diego. Okay, like you can't even like with the other one, the people that got poisoned or whatever. We were pretty close. Where you guys were, you know, with the poison. Yeah, it probably was a poison. You just didn't know that. If you knew more about the region, you might have even made the leap to like the weapons. If that was like on the list of like things like oh, also they tested chemical weapons there. Like if you know, once you know that, like it makes sense. You can connect the pieces. But some of the stuff that you've given, it's like there was one where a guy had disappeared in like Texas and ended up in like Washington State or something, and the facts were so weird.
Was this the guy who was found with his wallet that had a map drawn out on it?
I think so. Maybe he was ex-military or something. He was an older man.
The drawn map. That's so fun. Did someone find it? Like,
oh boy! So that case as well. I'm gonna mess up the facts.
Don't worry, we don't care.
But like the short facts, if it's the guy I'm thinking of, he had told his wife that he was an FBI agent who was in a lot of hot water, and then he disappeared for a short while, like 3 days, and then his wife received a phone call from a random woman who said, "Your husband's okay," and then like quote Leviticus or some book of the Bible, and then hung up. 3 days later, his body's found in the middle of the desert. He was shot in the back of the head, his hands handcuffed.
What was the verse he quoted? Sorry to interrupt.
It was some Old Testament verse, and I remember in the video I talked about what the verse was. It had something to do with 7 years. It was something about, and the king returned to his dominion after 7 years, something like that.
Okay.
So like people hyper focused on the number 7. So anyway, then he was found handcuffed, executed in the middle of the desert, like 3 states away. On his body, they found a dollar bill that had certain letters circled across the top. And then on the other side, it was a grid map of like a street with an X marks the spot. I don't think anyone ever figured out what street that was.
What were the letters circled? What did it spell?
Oh my gosh.
I guess it depends. Like, what would it? What
How
does
you
it say at the top
assemble
of
them?
$20. What the fuck does it say at the top of money?
I am dead.
E pluribus unum, in God we trust.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's got the weird Illuminati all-seeing eye triangle.
How do you not know what's on money?
I didn't remember what was at the top. I knew E pluribus unum was on there somewhere, but I didn't know if it said $20 or what was on the top.
Anyway, he did that. He circled a bunch of other details.
I don't think you've ever seen money.
That's you're right. I'm a crypto bro. I just invested all my money in Luna 4 days ago, and now I'm having suicide.
Dude, buy
ideation.
now, right? Like buy now. Jesus.
Have you guys seen what that story?
There was one story I wanted to mention only because you brought up both Nazis and money, and I thought it was funny. So at church, a bunch of the little kids, I'm a Sunday school teacher for like older groups. So, but like the little kids like to ask me questions about, whatever, because I'm just nice. And a few Sundays ago, there hasn't been a place to tell anyone else this story, but it's been bothering me. A kid comes up to me before the service and he tugs on my pant leg and he was like, I'm like, oh, hey, what are you doing, buddy? This kid's like 6, maybe 7. And I'm like, how's it going? He said, I had a question I want to talk to you. I'm like, yeah, sure. Whatever it is, man. What is it? And he was like, what does the Bible say about evil people? And I'm like, that's like a big question. Like that's a lot.
Lots of things.
A whole lot, as a matter of fact. So then I give him, whatever Sunday school teacher answer. And then he goes, so where was Hitler in the Bible? And I just kind of freeze for a second. I'm like, Hitler? He wasn't in it per se. And then before I could say anything else, the kid goes, but wasn't he rich? And I just like froze. I'm like, who has told you anything that you know about anything? So
Hitler is rich, and no, just tell him Hitler's at the end. And
that would have been my last day as a Sunday school teacher. The ultimate reality that I would have woven for him in that moment would have gotten me fired. Yes, he was rich.
Listen.
He had all of the moon diamonds.
Was Hitler rich? I never even stopped to consider that.
He was. Yeah. Well,
he was after he took
he was
power.
Using the party's money, but yeah, it's the same thing.
Was he? I don't think he grew up rich, right?
He came from
he didn't.
He was very poor, and then he was
originally assigned to go investigate this little splinter political group called the National Socialist. What are they? Wings.
National Socialist.
National Socialist Party.
And he got there and he became enamored with them. He was like, actually, I kind of want to be a part of this. And like that's how he got into the whole thing. But
that would be a hilarious guy like on Blue Check Twitter now who's like, I'm nothing like anyone else. I'm a hardcore nationalist, but I'm a socialist. And he tries to get himself lauded from both sides, and then they're like, haha, bitch.
Isn't that the thing? Y'all know better than I do, but isn't that the thing Wing said everyone memed on him for? He was like, I believe National Socialism, not understanding what he was saying or whatever. Yeah.
I should give another try, he said.
And he also could have added like the addendum or whatever of like, yeah, that seems like a good idea. Minus all that Jew stuff. Like, that's a little. That seems troublesome.
It's fun to laugh at him and meme at him, but the chat has gotten me to say some stupid shit too. So
he didn't know what he was saying.
I've said stuff that's so terrible.
Socialism
and stupid.
Yeah.
He meant socialism and National Socialism. I don't know. Did he think that was like?
He literally just meant a form of socialism. I think what he meant, I can't say, but it seems like he's like, yeah, a form of socialism that prioritizes the members of America first or whatever. And then it's like, so National Socialism,
yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, that sounds right.
He was talking about healthcare and said he would prefer that things go to like healthcare within a country rather than foreign aid. And someone's like, oh yeah, that's called National Socialism. So he just looks over at Chad and he's like, yeah, that. Let's give that a try again. That's a good way to go.
No, he's like, yeah, that sounds good. National Socialist.
Extremes doing.
That's what he does. He like phrases it out. He goes, he like reads the question out loud. He's like, what do I think of National Socialism? And then he gives it praise. He's like, I think it could work. We just need to give it another try. Something like that. You're just like, God, that couldn't have came out of your mouth in a worse way.
That poor guy.
I mean, he's not like they could have run that system without being like fucking murderous monsters. They could have done that without being
they also like
Jewish genocidal maniacs.
I had no idea what you were talking about. Yeah, there it is.
I was meaning like his idea.
National Socialism in America. I would like to try it. The problem is society as a whole moves slowly.
Did you see the last frame? It was Hitler and
Yes. That's
Oh my
okay.
God.
That's super fucking funny. But we all know what he meant. Like
We all
no
know what
one
he
can
meant.
say he's a Nazi. He doesn't.
No.
He-
I like playing stupid because that way when I'm actually stupid, like people can't tell. So I was having this conversation. I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, and like blank serious conversations. We had gone from like economics to like I don't know, save investments, and then I was like, we're talking about lifestyles now, and I was like, you know, I've been thinking about doing some outdoorsy stuff, you know, some camping. I've seen this real upkick of urban camping. There's these guys over under the bridge near my house. They've just little tents popped up, and those guys just live out there, and I think it's a cool lifestyle. I'm gonna
on
try to
year
get
two.
into
It
it.
saves a lot of money.
I'm gonna try to be homeless.
I
think
feel like
that's
if
my
you could
next
live in a
move.
tent for just a year, you'd save like what, $20,000 in rent?
And they're like
all that money for
they're
hepatitis treatment.
like those people don't have homes, and a lot of them are mentally ill. Like they're trying to be kind to me, and I'm like, no. I see them out there. They've got like lawn chairs. They're relaxing. They're definitely not trying to like get a job or anything. Look, if they were homeless, they'd be out working to get a job or something. They wouldn't be just relaxed. One was asleep out there in the middle of the day. I had stuff to do, and he was napping. No way.
Now hold
No
on,
way.
Kyle.
These guys are millionaires.
Was this when you visited Wings? Because that's just South Carolina from the
Oh,
sound
no.
of it.
Dude, hear me out on this. This will take a minute. I went to the Harley Davidson dealership, and the lead salesman there and I were talking about being rich versus being wealthy, stuff like that. And he asked, is LeBron James rich? And the answer was no. I'm sorry. Yes, he's not wealthy, though, because LeBron James has to show up tomorrow morning and do what someone tells him to. He's still under contract, right? There's still some man with his foot on the back of LeBron James's neck, even though he's probably threatening $1 billion. He's just rich. The guy that pays LeBron James, he's wealthy because that guy sets his own lifestyle. By that measure, the people that Kyle doesn't want to give money to are also wealthy. There's no one telling them what to do. They wake up every day and decide what they want to do, not what they have to do.
At what point did I say I didn't want to give money to them? I drive by every day and throw a fistful of pennies at them.
Is it still in the roll?
I shoot silver dollars out of a t-shirt cannon at those ungrateful cunts. Oh, I have head
On
trauma.
the overpass.
Yeah, we'll pay for it with the $7 I gave you, dumbass.
No,
Do you ever
I'll
think
tell
it's like that Sunny episode? He's like, it's like when you drive by a homeless guy with a mouthful of champagne and you spit it on him, and he doesn't even get a full mouthful; he just gets a little taste. It's just like in this
Like,
Wait,
have a
but,
taste
but
of the
Wendy-
good life.
So, Kyle, Joe Biden has
Sure.
made pot legal and perhaps letting felons not be felons anymore. What is happening here?
Well, I
No.
think what's happening is you're really struggling with your reading comprehension.
That sounds on brand. Yeah.
And while the Biden stuff is interesting, since you have had a couple of incidents lately, accidents, surgeries, maybe we need to focus on you for. No, he didn't make. He's like, yeah, someday we'll like look at making it legal and stuff. And you guys who have simple possession charges at a federal
Yeah.
level, those are gone now. So don't worry. It's like, come
What does
on,
that
dude,
mean?
What does it mean? What does it mean?
I don't know how
That's
many
not like a
federal
legal thing,
simple
is it?
possession charges there
I'll
are.
be 100% honest. When I heard that, I thought of Kyle.
I was
That's
like,
what he said to Kyle.
Me too. I was like,
Yeah,
I hope my
and
friend Kyle
I
gets
got a
off.
little mixed on like there's decriminalizing and legalizing and maybe a third term that don't all mean the same thing, but they sound like they should.
Sure.
And I don't know
Yeah.
what it is that he's trying to do, but it
he's
Was it
not
like
doing anything.
decriminalizing and rescheduling as like a lower class of drug, maybe? Because decriminalizing would just be what like a lot of places already have, which is
So I
just like if
believe-
they catch you with a certain amount, they're like, "Hey, you cut that out," and they give you a ticket and they confiscate it.
so
Yeah,
he's
and again, we're talking about federal. All you can do is federal guidelines, federal stuff. Like the states still have, you know, their
Right.
same
Yeah.
draconian laws in place and all that stuff. You get the same thing would happen to me again. Like if I had more wax here rolling.
You don't know
around in
that? Give it
Georgia.
a go.
Like nothing's changed. Nothing's actually all right, it would be a little bit different this time since if he's like legalized possession at a
Yeah,
they'd have
you're
gotten
more
rid of-
limber.
it'd be a little different this time, I suppose. But in any case, this isn't getting me out of anything, you know. Like it's like I pled guilty to intent with or with possession with intent to distribute, I believe. think it's been a while, a couple years.
Whatever I'm charged.
There was
with,
a piece
who
of
knows?
it was, dude. You've seen the movies. They put that piece of paper in front of you, and they're like, "Sign." And it's like, what? Not really though. But my lawyer was like, "This is a good idea."
I get that it doesn't solve all your problems, but I think you're underselling the impact of it. It's legal to own. People who've been busted for owning it get their records cleared, and he's
Federally.
rescheduling it so that it's easier to research or something. I forget what the rescheduling does.
Yeah, that's all real
And-
good. Changes the guidelines. Right now it's considered heroin at a federal level, like equal, as far as substances are concerned. But what it's not doing is changing anything about like the drug war, right? Like they're still going to be storming houses left and right, and they're still going to be grabbing people off the streets with a couple grams of marijuana and locking them up. Like that's not
Wait,
changing. On a
That's not
state
changing because
that happens at a state level. Like this
Right.
federal stuff is like the fact that I got scooped up in some federal stuff is just a consequence of me being me, and then
Right.
being like, let's get him. And also that silly warrant they wrote about the shorts and everything, and it seemed like the state might have been a little disappointed and was like, hey, can you help? Anyway, I don't think this is changing anything because who gets federal marijuana possession charges anyway? Who are those people? I
think-
saw a Reddit comment that said there's like 700 people.
No, 6,500 people is what I
Okay.
saw.
Still,
And Wendigoon, let me not talk over you. What are you saying?
Oh, you're good. You're good. I was just going to say, if I had to imagine, typically whenever the feds get in on a case where it's not a problem with the state, like say, for example, in Colorado, they're trying to bust a guy for something, they can still charge him federally for possession, even though the state doesn't have an issue with it. So more than likely, the people who are going to be exonerated are people in that situation. Kind of like getting Al Capone on tax evasion, like whatever you can grab him for, if I had to guess.
So there's a couple things in my head. One, if it becomes federally legal, does it solve the problem of these marijuana businesses not being able to use banks?
Yeah.
I'm hoping it does. And that's
Yeah,
a big deal.
I think that's a separate thing, but that would come along. The banking thing would definitely come along after they legalized it or changed it or decriminalized it, perhaps.
And the other part of it that I have in my head, and this might just be wishful thinking, is that when it's legal federally, that does more to set a tone. That, backward states like Georgia and North Carolina start relaxing a little bit because it's legal federally, and it's just one domino.
We don't even have
away.
medical here.
You
I
guys
don't
are
know
both
what North
like way
Carolina
behind
has.
Missouri on this. Like Missouri,
Yeah.
it's actually, as far as the Midwest goes, I think Missouri is actually like more chill. But
We have T8.
Oh.
I meant to say Delta 8. We have like that stuff is legal here. And to me, it's like once you get that, your problems are solved. Just use that instead. It's roughly the same thing.
yeah, the same
Right.
shit.
But still, I just like seeing people not get in so much trouble.
And like, as much as I love our wonderful sponsors, it'd be cool to like fucking fire up a joint every now and then, a legal one, Like, I do
would be
prefer
fun.
this. Like, joints make me cough. Like, there's no way I could like smoke a bunch of them all day. Like, that's like a once in a. The same way I smoke cigarettes or I drink beers.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm with somebody outside around a campfire or something, and they
It's a very
fire one off.
college way to smoke. I'm too old for joints. Give me a vape.
or even like I like the vape, but like even a blunt. Like I'm down for a blunt. Get multicultural with it, right?
Blunts
I saw-
suck. Joints are actually way better than blunts.
Dude, I like
Blunts, you're
blunt
getting halfway tobacco. You're getting like
yeah,
a
you get that.
strong-
You get a little zing from the tobacco. Yeah, I like it.
I guess I just don't like those flavored tobacco wraps very much.
Oh, I like those too. They
Tastes
taste
weird.
cheap and delicious. Great vanilla, honey, whatever. Let's get going.
I bet Kennedy would have done that if they didn't kill him. I guarantee
Yeah.
you he would have got high in the Oval Office before it was over.
Have we talked
He
about
seems
Kennedy like on the show like you with us?
Never
I
in
know the
depth
show's
at
talked
all.
about Kennedy. Like everybody has, but have we ever had the Kennedy talk with you?
I think it got passively mentioned on the episode that Woody wasn't here for.
I've
When, like Harley and everyone was on.
Yeah.
I remember watching.
I don't think we talked much though.
is
I'd
it-
like to.
did
I
Oliver-
don't know too much about it.
Is it an Oliver? Is it the Oliver? Did Oliver Stone make the movie, the JFK movie? Is that who made it?
Yes, yeah.
I remember watching
Remember
that.
Your King. Yeah, that's the Oliver Stone movie.
I remember that. Anyone who's never seen JFK, you should watch it. It's a tremendous film, great cast. Got our boy Kevin Spacey in there, and I remember at the end of it, there's
You get
something.
his boys, Kevin
Kevin
Spacey.
Spacey.
It's got your boy. Part of the gang, so to
Yeah.
speak. Yeah. We go
We're all-
way back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle is president of the Kevin Stacey Stan Club.
I like that our boys are like Kevin Spacey, and I don't know who's the fucking guy who didn't kill himself. Epstein.
Oh, Epstein.
Oh, yeah. He is not our boy. I don't know how
He was just a fun-loving playboy who liked to have a good time.
Jesus.
Is what I've
a hot-
heard. Is what I've heard.
Who's
Yeah,
been telling you
I mean,
that?
if that wasn't it, then surely that all that information with Ghislaine's list, they would have looked into it, right?
Yeah, that's what the guard at the penitentiary told me. I don't know
Yeah.
what else is going on.
That's what the guy who wasn't in prison there, the former cop with his pit bulls and his 22-inch arms, that's what he told you before the cameras went out.
With his
At the,
magical camera racing capabilities.
At the
That
end of
is
JFK,
wild.
though, there's a part where I don't know. There's some text on the screen, maybe, and they're like, they give a date in roughly 2020 when they're going to open these files and they'll be available for the public. And then like that came right. You're probably like, oh yeah, where's this file? They like pushed it forward again. They pushed it forward again. They're like, nah, we changed our mind.
No shit.
Kick the can down the road.
No,
I remember my
not
dad
only
looked
that.
at me. My dad, I guess, didn't think he'd live to 2020 at the time. He was like, make sure that you look into that. Like back then, I remember it so well. Like 30 years ago. Like, make sure you look into that.
I want Wendigoon to get some red pills on
even
it.
more, and so the JFK files are a whole thing. There's like hundreds of pages of declassified CIA info that you mentioned. My last video about the vampire attacks, part of it actually came from the JFK files. So it's like this book of information, and then what they did is they took stuff like JFK, stuff relating to MLK, Nazi groups in South America, and they released like a few pages and then redacted the rest. And it was like, that'll be another 10, 20 years. Like, all right, so they acknowledge it exists, but they're like, these 40 pages? No. What, 24? When we're all dead, that's when you can look at it.
And then the people alive then will be like, nah. Let's push that. Let's kick that can a little further down the road. I haven't.
And then Kyle tells his son, like, you look out for that whenever that comes around.
I don't know if it's true, but it's right here. Zach wrote it. White House delays the release of secret JFK assassination records, citing COVID-19.
Damn.
That sounds
Well,
like them.
that's dangerous.
That
You can't
COVID,
be
you know.
reading that on your phone.
Hey, that's what killed JFK. You know?
Like,
Yeah. I've heard I've heard the JFK movie is good and entertaining, but like, I don't even know what their claim is for who did it in the JFK movie, like CIA or something, I guess, based on the redacted thing. But we know for sure that that's not the full story in that movie.
Correct.
Like,
Yeah.
If the people out there were powerful enough to kill JFK, they're powerful enough to kill someone trying to tell the story of how JFK was killed, you know? Like,
Yeah.
they
There
wouldn't
are a lot of
allow a
weird-
movie like that to come out
Yeah,
if it was
there's a lot
really
of weird-
spilling, like, state secret beans, you know?
There's a lot of weird
Yeah.
stuff with the Cubans, and with Oswald. I've never thought the mob stuff was particularly compelling, but the Cuban stuff, the all the CIA stuff, with Oswald, and then there's that one guy who's all the Ruby stuff is really weird.
Jack Ruby.
Yeah,
He
and
was in the
then-
mob, or mob connected, right?
Yeah, he did. Well, he was more of like an enforcer for random stuff. Like mob connection, yes, but he wasn't in the mob. He wasn't like a big
Okay.
member or anything.
Yeah, the whole thing's wild. And then that shot that he supposedly made, I don't know.
And then they killed his brother.
After firing 3 shots out of a bolt action in like 2 seconds, like that guy had sleight of hand on up there.
He was-
Man,
Yeah, like you read
What's
that.
hard to do, and like if you've never like tried to do it in real, if you've only played video games with scoped guns, like shooting the gun and then chambering a new round and then putting it back up to your ear and getting that sight picture and then kind of getting settled into it, like
Mhm.
that. It seems quick, but it's precious seconds that you need if you're trying to shoot a guy driving away from you in a fucking Lincoln or whatever.
Is
you
the
know?
claim three? They say it was 3 bolt action shots.
Yes, 3 bolt action shots out of a 6.5 Carcano rifle. As he was driving away, fired in the time span of a little over 3 seconds, if I remember correctly. So the first shot was a miss. It skipped off the pavement and hit a guy who was walking down the street. The second shot is the magic bullet. That's the one that supposedly, hold up, let me think, I'm JFK. It hit him in the neck, went forward into his arm, down into his thigh, out of the front of his knee, into the seat in front of him, and hit the governor in the back, and was perfectly intact.
And then the third, that's why when you watch the Zapruder film, he's holding his neck because he had just been shot in the neck. So he's leaned over holding his neck, and then the third shot was the one through the head. So yeah, 3 shots, like super fast from a bookstore window, several hundred feet back. Just a lot of variables happening at once.
So do you not think that Lee Harvey, like, you think he was maybe framed, or where does he kind of fit into the mix?
So yes, yeah, there's the magic bullet. So yeah, into the back, then the neck, then the arm, then the leg. And then surprisingly was all in one piece. If in court they call it the magic bullet. Yeah. they tend to not do that so much.
Yeah, bullets do weird stuff. I don't know about all that shit. And then it being pristine at the end is the real weird thing, because they get all warped up and beat up after hitting bones and stuff. And I don't know.
Looks like there were like 6 points of contact in that graphic. Like that would ball up and fuck a bullet up, right?
If it's
like
Full Metal Jacket, it stays pointy. Like
Really?
Yeah, it's not going to mushroom back. It's going to stay, and that is Full Metal Jacket. It's going to stay together, but it's going to look worse than that. That would be a real pristine bullet if you found that like out on the sand at a firing range, downrange. If you go downrange at like Knob Creek in Kentucky, millions of rounds have been fired that way. And so if you just go down there, start like kicking dirt, you could just piles of the lead, the projectiles, just every kind you can imagine, like, and you can see that not too many of pristine
unless it what?
I got him. See,
No,
I got him.
You guys were so still, I couldn't tell if all of you froze. I'm like, maybe it's me.
No,
You're good. You're good now. You're good.
yeah,
now,
you said
Kyle.
unless they wouldn't be, the bullets would not be pristine unless.
Unless you hit sand or something, and it was like we would shoot bullets into that rubber stuff they use for landscaping. You can fill a trash can up with that and use that as a bullet stop. You're doing like ammo tests and stuff. You shoot right in, it'll catch the bullet. The bullet's in pretty pristine condition because it's going through soft rubber. But when you hit dirt and rocks and shit, the bullets get mangled. I don't know. Whenever I've hit animals and recovered them, they were mangled too. I don't know about all that.
So
they call it a magic bullet for a reason. They conspired to kill that guy.
Yeah, what was the
they
Lee Harvey?
did.
Like what? Yeah.
I'm not positive about this one because I haven't dove into the research regarding him specifically. Whenever I was doing my MLK assassination video, I saw this and quickly followed it, and I was like, all right, whenever I remake a full bore JFK video, I will come back to this. But Lee Harvey Oswald was an employee at the bookstore. And according to official records, he was a communist sympathizer, didn't like JFK. It was during the Cold War, so they just called him a commie because that was the idea. So he he supposedly just decided that he was going to kill the president whenever he heard that the president was going along that area. So I'm sorry, I'm going brain dead right now. Does something need to be said?
No. You're...
Sorry. I heard the mic come on, and I was like, oh, what's going on?
It's never happened before.
Yeah, we heard you typing, Zach.
audio, and we heard him typing, and
that's why I froze up. I'm like, is this an emergency announcement?
I don't know.
Sorry about that. I thought it was just going to stop. No big deal.
Russia
You're
launched
good.
its nukes at last.
Yeah, sorry.
They're getting first they got Kyle, now they got Zach. Anyway,
all of us.
So to stay on the train of thought, supposedly Lee Harvey Oswald just hated the president, and the United States wanted to kill him. According to a report, this was the quick thing I saw, I haven't fully looked into. The initial police report is that because the police ran into the building, that whenever they ran into the building, Lee Harvey Oswald was downstairs working. According to again, this one report that I haven't validated, that he was just downstairs working there, sweeping the floor or whatever. And then one of the police officers was murdered. Supposedly the first guy who ran into Oswald got shot. And then Oswald escaped out of the bookstore and to an old movie theater, if I remember correctly. And then the police followed them there and arrested him. But that initial police report says that when they got in, Oswald was just there. He wasn't upstairs shooting another cop with a gun. And then that report disappeared from the official record later. So the theory is that Oswald was set up to be the fall guy or the
Mhm.
patsy. And then later they just took that record out so that it would better fit the narrative that Oswald was the shooter. On top of that, whenever Oswald was being held by the police, he kept saying, like, I have no idea what's going on. And then whenever they explained like the shooting and everything, he said, oh, so I'm the patsy. I'm the fall guy. That's how this is going to work. And then he gets shot by Jack Ruby. So a lot of people are dubious over the Oswald connection.
You
There's a
think
chance
Jack Ruby may have killed him to cover up anything he would have
Yes,
said?
yeah. So
Oh.
that's the theory. So Jack
Yeah.
Ruby was a mob enforcer. He had carried out like jobs for. That's why I said he wasn't specifically in the mob. He was more like a contractor.
Mhm.
He supposedly just loved the president so much that he decided to shoot the guy as he was being transferred to interrogation out of the kindness of his own heart.
Yeah.
So he gets gunned down, and then whenever they arrest him, he's like, "Oh, I just like the president." And it turns out he had cancer, and he died 4 months later. It was 4 months or
Soon
4
after, I
years.
remember.
Soon after, and if I remember correctly, his family, like, he had family debt and like hospital bills from his cancer that disappeared after he shot Oswald. So,
Huh. That's
and that was
interesting.
part of a lot of people throw that towards the mob theory. They're like, oh, well, maybe the mob hired him to do it to pay off his debt. It's like, yeah, the CIA, that's the mob you're looking for. They have a name and everything. Yeah.
And they can
So
do
that's
whatever they
like the
want.
Oswald theory and like the Ruby theory and all that. Of course, it goes into more of like there being a second shooter, the whole grassy knoll thing and all that. So
What is the grassy knoll thing? I've always heard that like as a joke from Dale Gribble in King of the Hill, and I never looked like what is that
All right.
theory?
So Kennedy is in the back. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
I just said pocket sand quietly.
Oh,
Pocket sand.
my apologies. So Kennedy's in the Lincoln. He's going down the street, and Lee Harvey Oswald is in a bookstore behind him, like to his like back right. There is a grassy knoll, as it's been dubbed, which is a small hill underneath a tree by a fence to like his forward right, both on the right side of the vehicle, but the grassy knoll's in front of him. The only footage that we still have is of the shooting is the Zapruder film. That is the film. So there's a picture of the grassy knoll, like up towards where the trees are back there, like the shadowy area.
Mhm.
I don't think that wall's still there today, if I remember correctly, but like it's like a little field essentially. So anyway, the only footage that we have is of the Zapruder film. There was a cameraman standing on the same side of the vehicle of the camera shot we just saw, who was filming the whole thing. So he filmed, or sorry, on the opposite side, he would have been over near the grassy knoll filming.
Mhm.
So he's filming the whole thing, and he films from that angle as the shots ring out and as Kennedy gets killed. In the footage on the Zapruder film, you can see that there is someone else across the street who is also filming on a camera. So that should be the solution, right? Because if our cameraman, the Zapruder cameraman's back here, and the shooter's over to his right, then the person on the other side of the street should have an angle of that. And supposedly, well, not supposedly, this is a fact, they recovered that footage and brought it into court during the trial that like the movie JFK is about and all that. So yeah, so see how Zapruder position is like next to the grassy knoll dude? Over there where the mouse is on the right side of the road is where this mystery cameraman was. So anyway,
Okay.
that footage makes its way into court, and it was not shown publicly. It was shown to a private jury. The jury said that the evidence in the footage was compelling. And the next day, whenever they moved to make it public record, they misplaced the tape. And to this day, it's never been recovered. They just the biggest
no.
trial ever. They're like, oh, we misfiled it. I guess it's just
Womp
it's
womp.
not here anymore.
Shucks,
But
darn it
according
to the
to
luck.
yeah, and according to
Man,
the
I
people,
hope some CIA guy didn't lose his job over that. Oh my God! Can you
he
imagine? the
worked hard to
stress?
file that paperwork, man. According to the people who did see it, they're at the grassy knoll, which is again the position in the diagram. Whenever Kennedy's head explodes and he actually gets shot, there is a large puff of smoke from the grassy knoll. And that also lines up because Kennedy was in the Lincoln leaned down like this. And whenever he got shot, supposedly from up here, his head jerked backwards and his whole body flew out the back. Which, yeah, your muscles can do weird stuff when you get shot. But it's much more likely if he was shot from the front that his head would shoot backwards like that, rather than getting shot in the back of the head and, having that reaction.
Yeah, that's
so the idea is that the shooter was in front of him at the grassy knoll rather than behind him at the bookstore. There's also like the three bullets.
I'm in.
The 3 bullets is also widely contested. For example, supposedly the first shot's the one that skipped across the pavement and hit the guy watching the parade go by, right? Well, according to that guy's account, he heard a gunshot and stopped and then looked and then got struck in the leg. So supposedly, again, according to the theory, the grassy knoll guy fired first, and then whoever's in the book, because there was someone in the bookstore, whoever was in the bookstore, that shot is the one that hit him. Because there's no way this guy heard a gunshot and was like, I wonder what that could be. And then that gave enough time for the bullet to skip and hit him.
No,
Yeah. That's not how speed works.
That's not how speed works, yeah.
it would have to be some wacky shit, but it's possible. That's the fun thing. Like that bullet would have been like ding dong ding, and he hears bang. The bullet's still going bing bang ding. Clip. Like
it's like a Looney Tunes cartoon jumping all around the square. Yeah. And perfectly intact.
Yeah, I never knew how much bullets bust until I started shooting a lot of racers, specifically like not just bang bang bang, but when you've got like a belted machine gun shooting hundreds of tracers at like that area, and you're hitting like trees and stumps and rocks and hard pieces of dirt and soft pieces of dirt and water. Well, let's start making like, sharp turns that you don't think are like physically possible. They just make a right turn and they're already going 3,000 feet per second, and they just hang a left.
I've had that same experience. I shot a saw. People know this is a belt-fed machine gun. It was on the ground with a bipod, and we were shooting it at a car. And after the bullets hit the car, in my mind, they vanish, turn to powder, stop,
disappear.
Yeah.
See,
like,
the CIA thinks that way too, actually.
Yeah. But in reality, because they're tracers, you can really see where they're going, and they're just zinging all over the place. Sometimes back at you. They do crazy things. And Kyle's right. Like that story they tell is improbable, but not impossible. So
what's crazy is it's like, okay, you're expecting me to believe that some wonky shit happened the day a president died. I'm not going to buy that. Look, a president already died today, so I'm going to just assume everything else went like it normally does in our plane of existence, and assume y'all had a guy hiding over there, one up there, probably a third we don't know about who just didn't have a clean shot. Like,
right.
I think they conspired to kill that guy, and there's just so many reasons. He was a fly in the pudding, or whatever they say. In the ointment, is it?
Fly in the ointment. Yep.
That's what Biden was talking about. Yeah.
I think I'm a fly in the ointment. Life tries to get rid of me, but I'm stuck like a fly in the ointment.
Yeah, there was a lot of reasons they would have wanted him dead. They also did suspicious stuff that day. Like every time the president goes somewhere, they put Secret Service everywhere. And the day of the Dallas drive, the Secret Service got together and they were like, hey, there's something like, I think the number was 1,200 windows he's going to be driving by. That's too many to cover. Let's just no security today.
I did not know about that.
He's too exposed. No one watch him.
It's just a wasted effort. Let's hope. Like,
like that can make
he's
sense.
In God's hands now.
Yeah.
Why don't they just say, let's not do it?
Capable hands.
Let's put the fucking top up. Whose idea was the top down? I always think back to that scene in The Office when Michael is driving and Dwight's in the passenger seat of his convertible PT Cruiser, and Dwight thinks it's so cool to let the top down, but it's the middle of winter. And he's like, and he's already unbuckled them, and they're coming down, and there's no choice anymore. I just imagine that shitty governor of Texas wanted his picture taken with the president. He was like, no, come on, and he's like twisting how
put the top down,
put the top down, and like the wife is like, fuck, this guy's an asshole. He's like,
is that the view from the grassy knoll?
Oh.
This would have been where the shooter was. Yeah.
Wait, there could be clues on the fence.
All right. That's...
Look, he wrote his name right there.
Wrote it right there. His name's Roy Sanchez.
That's so
Roy
close.
Sanchez, you son of a gun.
The
Well,
trees
Louis
know. I like
Monroe.
that. The
Yeah.
trees know. That's pretty good. That goes
Yeah,
hard.
that's good.
The trees know that is good.
That's a lot closer than I thought it was. The way that looked, like I don't know where he was when he got shot in perspective to like where that camera was just sitting. But if you were trying to shoot a guy in that Suburban or whatever down there, that wouldn't be a challenge at all.
It
That'd
does.
be
I
like
thought that same
child's
thing,
play.
but also I don't know. You know how cameras work. I feel like I can't take it at face value.
I was just kind of looking at the sidewalk and the steps and kind of like doing
It's
a little.
I
not
feel
a
like
long
I could
shot
grab
at all.
the-
It's like 80,
Oh.
70, 80 feet maybe. If I remember
Set-
right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. okay.
I have a
70,
lens
80
that would
feet.
make that look
He's
like a
super
hard
dead.
shot and an easy
He's
shot.
super dead at 70 or 80 feet.
Especially if you miss and you have a guy to cover your ass.
Yeah, you've got like what's funny is if that's true and they each fired like 3 shots, right? They were horrific. For like a couple seconds, it was like the Wild West, just bam, 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 bam. He's
Yeah.
missing all the shots. They're skipping over the car.
Yeah.
Too bad he couldn't like Mr. Magoo his way out of that. Like he reaches down to tie his shoes at the right time. Gets up and shakes something. It's like the tires are popping behind him as he's like, sprinting through the street. Yeah.
That'd be so funny.
Yeah, but that's not the world we live in.
Hey,
And then they killed Bobby. And then they killed Bobby. What was that? That guy's name was like Sirhan, right? Something like
Bobby
that.
Kennedy?
Yeah, the guy who showed up and shot him in a kitchen that the CIA, the Secret Service, just let him into, and then he gets shot, and then they burn the evidence.
They
I
have
didn't
to. They
know
did it.
most of this.
Yeah, so
It's really weird. Like I think we might be living. I think that America may have died sometime around that period in history, and we're just like the leftovers.
We're like riding the corpse as long as it'll go.
Yeah,
It
like
was
the green men took over like right around then, and it hasn't been the U.S. since then. It's been some sort of weird
Some sort of
triumph.
Something I wanted to talk, like I know we talked about the JFK thing a bit. I like this is something like one of the conspiracy rabbit holes like I keep trying to go down, but I can't find anything good for it. So like Antarctica, what the fuck is going on down there? And why
Ain't that the question?
like there are military bases down there. Like
Okay.
lots of countries have military bases down there. And if you show up in Antarctica, they will kill you. They will shoot you in the head. They'll like as you're like if you just take a boat to Antarctica, get off and start walking around, they will kill you. Like
you
and
cannot.
I did not
privately
know
charter to
about
Antarctica.
this.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this at all. And I was
Are
like,
you-
well, what the fuck? What's going on?
Is
down
that First of all? Did you get that from a good source? I didn't know that. Is that true?
there?" Yeah, it came to me in a dream.
He's got my vote.
Now I know.
That'd be the worst source I can imagine.
There's like this is like not like I saw some like the conspiratorial part is like, oh, there's something under the ice out there, and there's like an underground civilization or the remains of Atlantis, that kind of thing or whatever. Maybe not Atlantis. Maybe I'm making that up.
Maybe.
But like the part that's not really debated is like, yeah, you cannot go to Antarctica. Like you can't go there. They'll shoot you.
Yeah, so I've heard of people. I don't know if it's immediately they just execute you. From what I've heard, they're like, leave, get off, because you can't privately make your way to Antarctica because there's some weird treaty with Antarctica. It's called I forget the word for it. Essentially, no nation can place ownership over it or like
It's all scientific research.
place a fact. Yeah, it's all scientific research, which
I
is
don't
the
think there's any
reason
law
that they
but that implies there's no
advertise.
law there technically. So I think they're going to have a hard time arresting me under any real powers.
Yeah,
Maybe
I don't-
maritime law. Does maritime?
I don't
law
think it's
apply?
illegal. I think it's a very gray area. They're just like, get out, essentially.
They consider me a pirate if I like grabbed my my retarded Malamute and started sledding deep into the Antarctic center.
You
And
wouldn't be
search-
sledding deep.
Look, he's a big
That
boy.
guy.
Goddamn it,
He is
can
strong. He has the power of 3 normal dogs.
So, that's pretty, he has 3 dog power.
no loud noises though.
So the conspiracy around Antarctica begins with World War II. There was a German research base in Antarctica called
camp something rather, I forget, but some number designation. Anyway, after the war was over in 1947, they sent a admiral by the name of Admiral Byrd to Antarctica in something called Operation High Jump, where he was sent with, I think, 20 men total to just like reconnoiter, investigate whatever the Germans were doing down there, to check out their facilities. And whenever they got back, they were all given a gag order and the Medal of Honor. And that's it. So
They were all given a gag order in the medal. All of them were given the Medal of Honor?
They were placed on like a 48-hour debrief, if I recall correctly. They were ordered to never speak about what they found, which that part's, probably pretty standard to most, military reconnoiter operations.
I think they stopped Hitler from being able to acquire alien technology down there, and they brought it home.
Now we're on the right path.
I don't think Hitler.
I think Hitler was down there. So my
made
favorite
Antarctica.
My favorite conspiracy theory, the one that I crave to be real, is the ancient civilizations one. The one, and when they lay out the timeline of the Earth's life, you're like, oh shit, this one does kind of make a bit of sense, right?
Like Atlantis, because they're like, yeah,
we've only been here for such a short period of time, like our civilization, like the last 6,000 years that we've actually recorded and can remember more or less. And the planet's been habitable, and we've been humans like we are for a very long time. Like we could have easily peaked and like been like pyramid building and then lost that and then 50,000 years went by. We resorted back to like hunter gathering people who don't even understand agriculture, and then we could have done it 3 or 4 times in the amount of time there's just no evidence for it, right? And so that's when you got to look to places like maybe Antarctica, maybe like wasn't that a tropical place a long time ago, probably predating humans, but I know at some point it was like maybe close to where Australia is.
Over like enough millions of years, all that shit's cyclical, right? With like, because
you had Pangea
or something,
right, where everything was one giant megacontinent and then it broke up. But for a long time, I think Antarctica was more of a tropical thing, like in the Australia area ish.
If there was something that like changed in elevation, we would have found that under the seas by now, or no? Because I guess that we really haven't been.
I don't think we've charted the seas very well.
What do you mean by change in elevation? Like if there was,
like if it was like, oh, there was this that's the only one I know, so I keep saying Atlantis. Oh, it used to be here, and then the water levels changed a million years ago, and now it's deep under the sea or something.
That's actually fairly common. Not just in like ancient civilizations, like the Greek city of. Man, I know all this stuff until I'm asked about it. There was a Greek city near the coast that was like this sprawling landscape that was flooded in, I forget when. That's supposedly the inspiration for stories of Atlantis. There's also one off the coast of, what's the country that gets hit by tsunamis all the time? It's not Japan, Southeast Asia.
Indonesia?
I think Indonesia. There was a city that was built in like the 1300s that had gone completely underwater. And what was wild is a couple years ago when they got hit with their last tsunami, this place has been underwater for hundreds of years. When the water drew back before the wave, for the first time, the entire city, like this underwater city with these statues and buildings, the footage of it's wild.
That's really cool.
The people who took the footage were having a terrible time. But
I really like the idea of ancient forgotten technologies that might differ from ours greatly enough that they would be cool and interesting and maybe something could be discoverable. I think that Baghdad battery shit is bullshit. I don't give a goddamn. It's just, it was probably a sex toy. They were putting that thing on somebody's clit to like.
I don't know what that is. They found these like primitive like makeshift batteries. It's like a clay pot with I think you got like an acidic solution and maybe a copper tube or something like that, and maybe there's another metal that's involved. But in any case, it could form an ancient battery. You could make an electrical charge. And but they're not powering laptops back then with that thing. They're fucking like sticking their dicks in it because it feels weird. They're shocking each other for fun.
Yeah, I that's probably like I could imagine a religious ritual where they use science to like reinforce religion the way that remember in what's that awesome Mel Gibson movie the Apocalypto, when they know the eclipse is coming and the priest kind of looks over at the head honcho like, yeah, it's coming. And by priest, he's like he's an astronomer like from 1,000 years ago, and he's just like, here it comes. And so the king is like, The sun disappears, and they're like, "Holy shit, the boss made this!" And then he's like, "And come back!" Like as soon as the priest gives him the go-ahead nod for that, and it's like, you can imagine how you're gonna get in line for a man who does something like that, like a guy who can make the sun disappear and come back.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
If like that's magic. Someone knowing that the sun is going, they wouldn't even think of it that way. They'd never take that extra leap, like, because how could you know it was coming, right? Unless you understood astronomy.
Yeah.
No, I like that a lot.
So
I
it
like the
was-
idea of lost civilizations and
Mhm.
that stuff just being eaten by the
ravages of time.
well, yeah, the way the Earth's crust goes under itself and just gets eaten over and over until there's no, it's just gone. It's gone.
It is wild to think about like buried cities. Like we build civilization on top of civilization, and think of like
Mhm.
everything that's sunk underneath. Concepts of sunken cities from like old lore, not like in the ocean, like the land gave way and there's these underground caverns.
Well, there's that
Incredible
thing in
stuff.
Have you seen the thing, the Graham Hancock stuff about the Göbekli Tepe place in Turkey?
I've heard of it, and it's supposed to be like a super old civilization, or some people
Yeah,
theorize that.
Yeah, that Graham Hancock guy, he's been on Rogan a bunch of times. I read his books; they're good. But he thinks that a comet came and melted a gigantic, like flash melted a huge ice cap and flooded out this ancient civilization that existed like 10 or 20,000 years ago in Turkey. And they found this huge, structure that was built there, and people should have been like hunter gatherers with stone tools back then, and instead you would have had to have like a civilization, because somebody's got to be hunting and gathering to get extra food so that you can have artisans who could even make something,
Mhm.
like that. And
Yeah,
supposedly
you
we
kind
weren't
of need
doing that then.
agriculture.
So that's an interesting one. I don't know. I like that stuff a lot. I like lost mysteries. And the other one I really like is the idea of life being on one of the moons of Saturn or Jupiter, maybe, like under the ice.
The what's the one everyone says is super habitable?
Titan, maybe.
I think Titan. That
Europa.
sounds right.
There's a movie about Europa.
Or
Yeah.
What is it called? Is that
I think it's
Jupiter or
Titan.
something? Titan.
I think Titan's the one everyone says that like it's almost habitable.
I don't want to live on any of them.
And no. It's a couple kilometers of ice at least, and then but then you've got a warm.
Yeah, that's
ocean.
habitable.
But
Yeah.
you've got a warm ocean down there.
Briefly.
Yeah.
And I think
Anything's habitable for
Yeah.
small amounts of
Very-
time.
Very briefly.
I think that like the most ambitious scientists think that there's probably be like some amoebas or some like bacteria down there that feeds off
Yeah.
of thermal activity. But
Nah,
I
man.
really want there
Ocean
to be
monsters.
I don't
I
give a
want
shit
there
about
to be
that.
like mermaids.
I need something with
Yeah.
hands for me to really care. Like, something
like-
that made tools.
If I get there and the fish has hands, I'm going back.
Yeah.
I'm not interested.
Well, that would just confirm it's like, oh, so somebody had a nuclear apocalypse here a long time ago. And now all the fish are peeling their kelp at the bottom of the sea or whatever the fuck. Yeah, I
Peeling
I couldn't think of anything they would do with hands. Seems like a bad idea. But
I've been looking at a bunch of like weird sci-fi. I wanted a new sci-fi book, so I've been watching YouTube videos about various like sci-fi authors. And it might be an Isaac Asimov. I don't know who wrote this one, but the premise is that aliens come to Earth and they just sort of like hover over us, and we do try to attack them, but it like bounces off, and they're like, "Chill, listen, we're here to help. Our boss has sent us here to get you guys up to speed. You're gonna join the Galactic Federation. Can't look at us though. We're rough looking. Okay, we're gonna hang out here for a while. When you get used to us, our ships, and then communicating with us, then we'll reveal ourselves." And that goes on for like many years, like 10, 20, I don't know how many, like call it 10, 15 years. And sure enough, they've really enriched humanity lately. Technology's better, culture's better, everything's better. And they're like, all right, it's time. Chill though, right? And they like step out of their craft, and they literally look like the devil. They literally look like the devil, like horns and pointy tails and like pointy teeth and claws. But there's no twist at the end. They're just nice. They really are these like ambivalent, nice people. They're like, don't be scared. We know that a lot of people get scared of us and all. I'm Mark.
This is my husband Alan, and it's like, oh, they're progressive. Like,
Oh, yeah. No, I've been looking for a new one to read. It's that or Helldivers. I kind of want to go back to the Helldivers series
which
and finish that.
Helldivers?
Oh, that's the one where
that's the average life is 10 jumps, and this guy's on jump 95, and he's hard ass. I remember that.
the Earth's all poisoned, and we live in the sky on a hover ship. Those books are fun.
I want to read a book about Antarctica. I don't care if it is 100% whole cloth made up. Like I just like if it's a fun story. Yeah, just start off with something kind of fun where it's like the Nazis left, and then just make it up.
Yep.
Who cares?
Just have a good time. That's all that matters.
That's what matters in all these theories, that you're having a fun time.
Exactly. The funnest part about it is there was a second Operation High Jump, if I remember, like in the 60s or the 70s, when a group supposedly went to Antarctica. One of the funnest theories is that they took cameras there and had like this broken footage of like plant life they discovered and like a civilization of people under the ice. Love it. Fantastic. I believe it. Don't need any further information.
I want to believe
all
it.
living under the ice.
100%.
Because
our
our existence is a little boring at times, right? Like, you know, like the stuff that happens in movies is so dynamic and big and earth changing, and nothing really big has ever happened in our lifetimes. Not really. Like even to us, it doesn't feel real, you know. But I want something that's so big that even if you're not touched by it, it feels big. Like I want to discover some aliens or do a thing, right?
Seems like it'd have to be aliens, right? Like what else could it be?
I do want, or one of those lost civilizations. I want to find some mole people under Antarctica, and they've been under there for like 80,000 years, and their technology is way better than ours,
or way worse. I'm fine with that.
But they're mole people, so we just beat the fuck out of them. Like
I can't wait to kill it. Yeah.
Where aliens show up and they're like pedaling, and we're like,
some cool stuff has happened in my lifetime. The internet comes to mind, and another thing I think is neat is like voice to text and translation. I could literally have a conversation with someone who only speaks Japanese in near real time, where it just translates his voice to English and mine to Japanese back and forth. Like that technology exists.
That is
Tower of Babel stands tall.
And it was total science fiction, you know, that kind of translator. It was Star Trek shit, you know, until sometime, you know, it evolved. But because it's incremental, because we had it in like 1995, but it sucked. And then we had it in 2005 and it pretty sucked. And we had it in 2015 and it, you know, and then 2022 comes along and you're like, yeah, it kind of works now.
I know my fucking Dan Tanner, the guy who invented Tannerite up there in the Northeast, wherever. He goes out on a hike and kills an elk and like packs up the meat like 100 pounds at a time or something and packs it back home and then comes back for more in mountain lion territory. And it's like, that dude's doing it for real, and he's a billionaire.
Yeah, he's just in it for the love of the game.
Yeah, he's one of the more interesting people I ever met. That when we went up to his little man cave, and he had a Barrett 50 cal with a suppressor on it that aimed out of double swing windows at a bear feeder. Like, this, you've got it figured out. You can get up. He's drunk playing pool, and he's ready to shoot Yogi with a Barrett. And
that's like just not very sporting.
His wife just had given birth. His wife gave birth the day before, but he'd already invited us on this trip, and we had driven from Georgia to the other corner of the United States, and he was kind enough to see us, even though brand new baby. The mother-in-law is there, and she's like, "You're out there with your friends," because that's what she sees. She's like, "This is a newborn baby. You can't even have strangers around it in the house. It's, you know, it's a brand new baby."
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
meanwhile, he's at the oven with a frying pan. You guys want any placenta?
He invited us in. Oh my God! Are you joking? Have I told you about the placenta already? But he had the placenta right there. He had I swear to God, he had the placenta in a garbage bag in the back of his truck. That, you know how guys hang around in the back of a pickup truck, kind of hanging over the rail, and everybody leaning on it.
Shit, not even like a Pyrex or something.
It was no. He's using his bear bait that night. He's using afterbirth and placenta or whatever as bear bait. Which I was like, won't that give him a taste for human flesh? And he's like, they're not going to survive. Yeah, they won't live long enough to tell the tale of human flesh.
Meanwhile, there's a fucking placenta loaded with tannerite and a feeder. I'm saying this isn't sporting, but
No, he was a
kaboom.
real guy. We set off he gave, I don't know how many hundreds of pounds he gave me to like shoot off at once. We just filled up a giant drum of it. It's probably in the video title. Let's call it 300 pounds. But it shattered all these windows out of this fairly nice cabin that was obviously within earshot away. And I didn't feel responsible because I'd been invited to this mountaintop to do this thing. You know, it's like, I'm like, hey, could we shoot a video where we shoot a bunch of tannerite? Obviously, it's essentially free to you. You create it right here. And yeah, absolutely. We'll go up here and okay. I didn't set all this up. They did. So I didn't feel responsible for it. And I was like, I don't feel responsible for it, but someone should be. And I think Dan may have paid for those windows because that shit wasn't on me.
It was on him.
That was on him.
You are describing a mythical person. This is insane.
He's also
Skinwalker.
No, he's a real nice. He's a big
Apparently.
man too. I would call him 6'4", 245, 250, and powerful. Like a very physically imposing guy.
Out of 10.
What? What do you mean?
Out of 10, attractive.
Oh, I honestly can't picture his face if I'm being honest at the
Well,
moment.
that's not really what I'm looking at
So
anyway.
definitely
It
not.
was
How
covered
his
in all the bear
ass? Did he
bits.
have a belly?
Fit guy, fit guy.
Bro.
Good guy.
The picture of a guy with a 50 cal pointed at a bear feeder.
Is he looking
mean-
for a 49-year-old male sugar baby? Just asking for a friend.
I don't know.
This is funnier in my head because I'm imagining the 50 cal like 30 yards from where this
It was. No, 100%. It was.
Really?
That's exactly what it was. It was right there in the front yard where it was aimed at. Like it wasn't. It was close enough that you could have done it with a bow. Like
You like hit it
was
with a
right
rock.
there. He was baiting bears into the yard.
The
I mean,
game
you had
warden
it
has
happening.
nightmares about this man.
That's his. He was like, we were like up on a mountain past security gate.
Oh, I'm not saying he shouldn't
And
be
by the way,
allowed to
that's
do it.
him.
I'm
I
saying
still
they
don't
hate him
recognize
for
his
it.
face.
Absolutely.
There's placenta on there. Better check out the Johnson place.
Tannerite. I remember. I don't know if it was the first time I met Kyle. Or
There's
not. Probably not. But I met Kyle at Wings of Redemption's house one time, and he brought some
years.
tannerite. And it was a long time ago. And he brought some tannerite. Is jar like this? I don't know if it weighed 1 pound or 5 pounds. One, you think? And if I recall, Kyle did the shooting, but he was like, yeah, like just a little thing. This is what I do. Check this out. I think you might like it. The explosion blew my hair back. Guys, look. This hair doesn't move, right?
Keep in mind, we're behind Wings Granny's trailer.
Yeah. This is like a suburban area,
I
kind of.
threw it out in the yard, and I think I grabbed an F2000 or something, and just like set it
Yeah.
off in the yard.
And my hair is like, I can't even move it, but it did. It was like I felt the explosion jet my hair back. I was like, holy shit! I've never like felt a percussion like that.
yeah,
It was pretty cool.
yeah,
I've
that
never felt
stuff's
the percussion like that.
I
we
mean, buy that shit. Yeah, that's cheap. Make
we
it
were
yourself. It's legal.
experimenting. It is.
experiment-
We were experimenting with direction, allegedly experimenting with directional explosives. So we took a Tupperware container, and we we opened up a bunch of shotgun shells, took butt shot, just laid it in the container, and the next to it put 5 pounds of tannerite.
Yeah.
We're like, let's just see like what this does, man. I thought I had shot like 1 and 2 pounds before. I'm like, I'm man enough for this. I fire that 5 pound. I was not man enough for that. That was an experience.
Yeah,
Did
I
it
was
like
like-
take your breath away with the shock of wave?
Yeah, I was like maybe 50 yards away, maybe. And I'm like, oh, there's a chest high barrier. This will be fine. So I fire. And then, like, as soon as it happens, my sinuses were cleared.
It's like you took
oh,
a
no.
copper.
yeah. If you've never been
There were-
around an explosion like that before, it's bracing. You know, if you've ever felt
Whenever-
like a good sound system that doof, doof, doof,
Yeah.
you get a big one of those, and it's fun. It feels good.
Whenever you blew up that truck, how much did you use?
Probably about 15 pounds. That was like the
Okay.
general. I had a charge after a while that I just used for cars. I won't go.
gotcha.
I probably described it precisely, but I don't think I will right here at the moment. But I had a container that would hold exactly like 13 or 14 pounds, roughly. It was something like that, like 13.5. And I would hang that from the rear view mirror, kind of central to the cab of, you want the
Yeah.
explosion to be even. And the mirror was broken, so we put it on the oh shit handle instead, which put it against the door, which created a bit of a shape charge kind of scenario,
Directional,
pushing the
yeah.
door. And that's how that all happened. So roughly 13 pounds. That's about what it takes to turn
Gotcha.
a car into shit. 13. I'm
So I had something I wanted to talk to Wendigoon about.
Oh.
We can
Oh.
jump in with that.
J-
So I know from your channel you're very interested in these mystical woodland creatures and things. Very not just woodland, all over the place. Of
In
all
fact,
those
yes.
you've researched, do any of them at all like trigger a thought in your mind to be like, this could be real? Or are you mostly at the end of it like, I can't
So,
buy in?
I do think that there is a large case for a lot of like ocean creatures, for one, right? So I'm going to leave those out of it because that's cheating, right?
Okay.
Okay.
As far as like, so I'm from Eastern Tennessee, right? So I spend a lot of the time in the woods, do a lot of camping, and there's some weird stuff that goes down you just don't explain, like just some noises, some carcasses you find that you're like, this is not right.
Mhm.
And I'm also like, a Christian, a Sunday school teacher. So I also have the thought in my head, like, maybe it's just a demon. That makes me feel better for some reason.
Yeah.
So if there is any like supernatural or cryptid, so to speak, creature that would exist, I would probably say it would be in line with a lot of mythologies that go along the lines of like the rake or something like that. And I don't think maybe any one specific one of them is real, just maybe like some kind of creature that's unaccounted for, just something that isn't quite on the record yet.
Sure.
It's not an entirely out there, like, Bigfoot with antlers and giant wings. As much as I love the Mothman, probably not. But just something that we're not entirely aware of yet, that makes some noise at night that we don't pay attention to. Yeah.
Well, that's totally
I'm
believable.
also like, I also lean toward that, not like the biblical demon, which is a fucking corrupted angel of the Lord, but like the idea of some sort of like, I don't know, other dimensional fucking weird being that's kind of here, but not really. And like, maybe sometimes it influences our world in some weird way, even if it's just being a cold spot or screaming real loud in the woods.
An in-betweener, so to speak. Yeah.
I don't know. I've never seen or heard anything that I couldn't explain with my ears or eyes one way or another. I remember when we were on our little survival trip that time with you, myself, and Chiz and Patrick, our cam man, and we heard some people way in the distance being I'm gonna say they were being silly and partying by a fire, because that's not terrifying. Because what we heard was, woo! It sounded like there might be some deliverance shit going down,
Yeah.
like they just had like fuck the guy or something,
or
like,
a demon ritual of sorts.
you never know. But it was so far away. But we're in like a
Some
silent
Bohemian
forest.
Grove
All you
shit.
hear is crickets and all the forest life and quietness. So like a person's voice in those hills, those mountains carry so far. But it was scary. I was glad we had guns. I was like, I'm not worried about it at all. We've got fucking guns. I kind of hope they come over here and start some shit. Actually, let's go see what they're yelling about.
You better hope that
Don't care if you
that it's like a physical being. Your guns are going to be nothing against demons.
Well, then we've
ghouls.
got a cameraman. We're all millionaires now. We're the first ghost hunters to actually find a ghost.
The reason
Fucking
that no, if
medals are going to be on us like Soviet commanders. It's going to be nuts. If we
the only thing we
film a
know,
ghost,
the only thing we know for sure about ghosts is that if you like see one verifiably, like they probably are going to kill you, right? There'd be a
me
lot
and
more
Woody's
people
gamer
with better
tag
stories.
We're the first men to beat up a ghost in the forests of Georgia, and our boy Patrick filmed it. We're cutting shiz out of this. It's a union thing. Me and Woody he took his tent flap, his rain guard, and choked the fucking ghost out. there was so much cosmic energy imbued in it from his anger earlier that day that he could choke a phantom with it.
That
And
makes sense. Yeah.
And we take a
True.
phantasm like prisoner. We'd be the first guys, so I have no fear of a phantasm or ghost. I would love to die that way if someone records it. It'd be cool. That's how I'd love to die.
It would be
I'd
cool.
like
Ghost
to be
attack?
taken out a long time from now. Like at 91, there's no way I'm making it to 90. At 71. You know?